Chapter 470 Immortal King's Demeanor. Please subscribe. Toot Songqing Immortal felt emotional and didn't know how to describe Lin Yuan. Whether it was an ordinary immortal king or a supreme immortal king, for him the difference was not significant, as either way they were beings he couldn't look up to. As for the destruction of Huailong Palace, just speak the truth outwardly, Lin Yuan said indifferently. The meaning of the statement was that there was no need to hide that the mysterious immortal king who destroyed Huailong Palace was the martial ancestor. This decision was made by Lin Yuan after careful deliberation. As with his current strength, there was absolutely no need to hide his identity. Revealing part of his strength had many benefits. One was to greatly promote the martial Tao cultivation system, to let more cultivators embark on the path of the martial Tao. A cultivation system where the peak combat power is a true immortal compared to one where the peak combat power is an immortal king belongs to entirely different concepts. As the martial ancestor equal to a tribulation-transcending celestial king, Lin Yuan, without saying more, at least proved that martial Tao is also a path that reaches to the heavens. Second, Lin Yuan had always wanted to contact the other tribulation-transcending celestial kings of the spirit realm, but these celestial kings were either completely untraceable or too far away. Since that was the case, Lin Yuan decided to reveal his strength and actively attract those celestial kings to come to him. Yes, Songqing Immortal said respectfully. Passing a message for the Daoed Immortal sect was not a difficult task. The destruction of the Huailong Palace caused a huge stir in the entire Dongyun Tao province, and even the nearby provinces were shaken by the news. It wasn't that the Huailong Palace had a huge influence. In fact, even if the Huailong Palace had obtained the essence of heavenly water, it still would have been hard for it to compare with the core domains of a province. The reason Huailong Palace caused such a big commotion was entirely because the being who acted against Huailong Palace was almost certainly a tribulation-transcending celestial king. The emergence of a tribulation-transcending celestial king could completely shake province after province, sparking discussions like a tsunami. Who exactly was the celestial king that took action? I'm also curious. It's just the Huailong Palace. A celestial king would just need to say the word, and I'd personally go to destroy it. Why would a celestial king need to act personally? In Dongyun Tao province, we finally have another celestial king. In the Shenhuang domain, Dongyun Tao province, as well as many other provinces, numerous true immortals were abuzz. This was about a celestial king after all. True immortals at the peak of the Unity realm, after centuries, would only have hoped to see one or two celestial kings if they traveled across 3,000 provinces. While numerous forces discussed the origins of that mysterious celestial king, a force from Shenhuang domain named Daoed Immortal Sect publicly declared that the mysterious celestial king who destroyed the Huailong Palace was none other than the ancestor of the martial temple. The news spread like a hurricane. The true identity of a tribulation-transcending celestial king. What crucial information this was. The ancestor of the martial temple? I have some impression of the martial temple, a cultivation system more focused on forging the physical body, and its strongest should only be comparable to a true immortal. A cultivation system like that, capable of producing a celestial king? Is that real? A martial temple limited to inside a city actually has a celestial king presiding over it? It shouldn't be fake. Even with immense gall, the Daoed Immortal sect wouldn't dare to fabricate the identity of a celestial king, right? Although many true immortals had doubts about the information, that the mysterious celestial king came from the martial temple, none dared to openly object. Absolutely joking. You might object to other great realm forces. What can they do to you, after all, separated by a great realm? Even if they were half-step celestial kings, they would be unable to reach you. But to publicly doubt a celestial king, across 3,000 provinces, even the most desolate places, if you run far enough, still cannot block a celestial king's malice. No more, I'm heading to Shenhuang domain to pay a visit to that martial ancestor, a being on par with a celestial king. Me too. If the martial ancestor agrees to accept me as a disciple, I'm willing to forsake all my cultivation and follow the path of martial Tao cultivation. Accept you as a disciple? Do you not look in the mirror at yourself? That's a celestial king-level powerhouse adopting a disciple? Many true immortals from dozens of nearby provinces began heading towards Dongyun Tao province. True immortals at the peak of the Unity Realm, the hope of meeting a celestial king was through such an occurrence, a celestial king revealing traces at a certain place, attracting numerous other true immortals to come from thousands of miles away. Compared to the true immortals drawn by reputation, numerous lower-level cultivators were even more thrilled. The martial Tao cultivation system can actually produce celestial king-level powerhouses? Just what I need. My spirit root aptitude is lacking, my potential in the immortal path limited. I've decided I'm going to the martial temple to ask for apprenticeship. Yes, the martial Tao cultivation system is home to immortal king-level powerhouses. Becoming a martial Tao cultivator is far superior to joining those forces, most of which have never had an immortal king-level powerhouse. Martial Temple. Many martial Tao cultivators seemed bewildered. What? Our martial ancestor not only returned but also became an immortal king-level powerhouse and casually destroyed the Huailong Palace? This. Many cultivators who had just joined the martial temple suddenly felt as if blessings had fallen from the sky. Originally joining the martial temple meant they could not compete with the disciples of the Dao Immortal sect and the Shenwang Hall, but now it should be those disciples licking their wounds, shouldn't it? Outside Xianyao City, Jun Haiqiu, Jun Nangong, and Jun Yunxuan, 3 outstanding descendants of the Jun family, finally arrived at Xianyao City. Our Wuji ancestor became an immortal king? Jun Haiqiu and the others looked at each other. They weren't Songqing immortal. They had taken quite some time to get to Xianyao City from the Dao Immortal sect. However, en route, they had received the news that the martial ancestor was now an immortal king-level powerhouse. Wuji ancestor, who disappeared for hundreds of thousands of years, has reappeared as an immortal king-level powerhouse? Why do I feel like I'm dreaming? The 3 descendants of the Jun family felt that happiness came too suddenly, too intensely, and was somewhat hard to bear. They had imagined Wuji ancestor to be very strong. After all, they had heard legends about him from childhood, but they thought he would be on par with the Songqing immortal at most. As for an immortal king, they never considered it. If it were easy to reach the status of an immortal king, the spirit realm's 3,000 Tao provinces wouldn't have so few immortal kings. Has Wuji ancestor become an immortal king and might not want to see us? Jun Haiqiu asked hesitantly. That was an immortal king, high above all, overlooking the 3,000 Tao provinces. No matter what, he is still our ancestral patriarch of the Jun family. We should pay him a visit. Jun Nangong hesitated briefly, then made a decision. Now that they were in Xianyao City, even if they couldn't meet him, they still had to try. The 4th heaven. A purple-robed elder suddenly stopped. He glanced at the location of Dongyun Tao province below. Unexpectedly, even in such a remote Tao province, a fellow Taoist has emerged. The purple-robed elder was also a tribulation-transcending celestial king. The vast spirit realm had so few tribulation-transcending celestial kings that it was a rare occasion to see a fellow Taoist, naturally stirring his intention to visit. Martial ancestor. I've not heard of this title before. Seems to be a newly ascended immortal king? The purple-robed elder surmised internally. The powerful immortal kings, such as the Supreme Immortal King, revered across the 3,000 Tao provinces, even other immortal kings must display sufficient reverence. Martial ancestor? The purple-robed elder, who considered himself well-informed and well-connected, had never heard of an immortal king by this title. Therefore, he believed it was a very reasonable guess that this martial ancestor had only recently ascended to the tribulation transcendence stage. Whoosh! The purple-robed elder appeared in an instant outside Xianyao City, stopping at a distant mountaintop. Let me see what kind of presence this newly ascended immortal king has. The purple-robed elder's eyes faintly emitted a purple light. After ascending to the tribulation transcendence stage, an immortal king's life begins to affect his surroundings, even linking with the heaven and earth of the spirit realm, hence revealing certain phenomena. Such phenomena, having no concrete form, are hard to observe, but the purple-robed elder cultivated a secret technique that could capture these kinds of immortal king phenomena to some extent. If it's a newly ascended immortal king, the phenomena should be small. Those veteran immortal kings, even the supreme immortal king, just their own phenomena can stir the 9 heavens. While thinking, the purple-robed elder observed the position of Xianyao City. The longer one cultivated during the tribulation transcendent stage, the stronger they became, the greater their influence on their surroundings, and thus the more terrifying the immortal king phenomena became, almost like those wonders and anomalies in the 9 heavens. Through the immortal king phenomena, one could also somewhat judge the immortal king's strength. The more the purple-robed elder observed, the more noticeable his change in expression, ultimately revealing a look of shock. Chapter 471 The Long 300 Years, Subscription Wanted. Such an aura of an immortal king. The purple-robed elder gazed towards Xianyao City, or to be precise, at the vast expanse under the firmament above Xianyao City. To the eyes of a true immortal, there was nothing there, and even ordinary tribulation-transcending celestial kings would not notice anything amiss. But in the eyes of the purple-robed elder, a grand world was evolving, vast and boundless, and the breath it emitted was no weaker than the aura of an ordinary immortal king. The aura is actually that of a whole world. The purple-robed elder's mind trembled, as the aura of most immortal kings was the outer image of some object, such as a heavenly pillar or an ocean. But the grand world aura before him was not so much an aura as a collection of countless other auras. Martial Ancestor is definitely not a freshly ascended immortal king. The purple-robed elder collected his thoughts. How could the aura of a newly ascended immortal king be so grand? Although the aura of an immortal king is to some extent an indication of their strength, it's not absolute. But the grand aura the purple-robed elder was observing, how could an ordinary immortal king present such a display? Within the boundless world, many wonders were included. Even those who had cultivated for 1,000,000 years, the peak tribulation transcending celestial kings, could not achieve such a feat. Only a supreme immortal king, one in full control of the power of creation, could condense such a level of an aura. The purple-robed elder took a deep breath. There are 2 types of tribulation stage celestial kings. One is the regular immortal king, which includes the newly ascended immortal kings, ordinary immortal kings, veteran immortal kings, and peak immortal kings. The difference in strength among these 4 levels largely depends on their control of the power of creation. However, the gap is not too large. Even a peak immortal king would have difficulty killing a newly ascended immortal king. By the Transcendence Tribulation stage, after overcoming the bodily and mind tribulations and mastering the power of creation, an immortal king's ability to protect themselves becomes extraordinarily strong, and escaping if they can't win is not much of a problem. The second type of tribulation-transcending celestial king is the supreme immortal king. A supreme immortal king has mastered the full extent of the power of creation, and some have even grasped more than one type of power of creation. The strength of a supreme immortal king has almost no limit, and for some of the ancient ones, killing a peak immortal king is not too troublesome. Therefore, even among tribulation-stage celestial kings, supreme immortal kings are absolutely not to be trifled with and are to be revered. Of course, the number of supreme immortal kings is pitifully small, and only a few, like the supreme immortal king, have a renowned reputation. To think that Martial Ancestor might actually be a supreme immortal king? The purple-robed elder's scalp tingled, but he couldn't help but feel curious. In this world, everything leaves a trace, especially supreme immortal kings. Becoming a supreme immortal king is not something that can be achieved through seclusion alone. It requires interaction with the outside world, venturing through many secret realms. The growth trajectory of any supreme immortal king cannot be completely secret. But Martial Ancestor, the purple-robed elder, thought himself well-learned but had never heard of a supreme immortal king associated with Martial. Could it be that one of those undying beings from the prehistoric era has re-emerged? The purple-robed elder speculated secretly. Long ago, the spirit realm experienced a historical discontinuity. Before the discontinuity was the prehistoric era. It is said that during the prehistoric era of the spirit realm, it was immensely glorious. Immortal king-level beings roamed the universe, but due to a shocking upheaval, many immortal kings fell, leading to the current era of the 3000 Taoist states. The purple-robed elder's speculation about Lin Yuan could only be attributed to the prehistoric era. Otherwise, he could not explain the sudden emergence of a supreme immortal king. Better slip away. Whether or not it's a supreme immortal king from the prehistoric era, it's better not to get too close. Before understanding the character of this supreme immortal king, the purple-robed elder immediately planned to keep his distance. If Lin Yuan were merely a newly ascended immortal king, or a veteran or peak immortal king, he would not mind interacting with him. But a supreme immortal king, who might be from the prehistoric era, was something the purple-robed elder dared not approach lightly. The stronger one is, the more clearly they understand the terror of a supreme immortal king, especially those from the glorious prehistoric era. Let's go. The purple-robed elder turned to leave. But in the next moment, he froze in place, because a figure had appeared not far away, at some unknown time, facing away from him with hands clasped behind his back. Its martial ancestor? The purple-robed elder's scalp exploded, knowing that only martial ancestor could have appeared beside him undetected, something not even a peak immortal king could achieve. I have seen martial ancestor, the purple-robed elder said immediately with slight respect. Since martial ancestor appeared here, it was a clear sign that he had been discovered, and it was obviously too late to run now. Lin Yuan glanced at the purple-robed elder and felt quite satisfied. He had revealed part of his strength not only to promote the martial Tao cultivation system but also to attract other tribulation-transcending celestial kings, so as to gain true upper-level information about the spirit realm. The spirit realm is vast. The 3,000 Taoist states are just a small part of it. If Lin Yuan were to search for those tribulation-transcending celestial kings himself, it would probably take a lot of time. Instead of doing that, why not wait for them to come to him? The moment the purple-robed elder approached Xianyao City, Lin Yuan was aware of him. As the purple-robed elder was observing the aura of martial ancestor, Lin Yuan was also observing the purple-robed elder. Although he did not know what method the purple-robed elder used, in that instant, Lin Yuan had a vague feeling of being watched. This scrutiny was only the most superficial kind, far from detecting the core of Lin Yuan, but it was still rare. Chapter 472 The Long 300 Years, Subscription Wanted, Underscore 2. I do not know what matters the martial ancestor has for me to attend to, but rest assured, I will follow them. The elder in the purple robe took the initiative to say. Although he did not know the ultimate purpose of the martial ancestor, his presence surely meant more than a mere meeting. I shall ask you a few questions, Lin Yuan said casually. Please ask, martial ancestor. As long as I know, I will withhold nothing. The elder in the purple robe let out a slight sigh of relief. Not just a few questions, even if there were hundreds, he would not hesitate. Where do most celestial kings in the tribulation stage stay? Lin Yuan asked directly. Up till now, traces of tribulation-transcending celestial kings have rarely been seen across the 3,000 Tao provinces, not only in Dongyun Tao province, but even in several core Tao provinces. There are at most legacies left by immortal king-level beings. In other Tao provinces, there are occasionally rumors of celestial kings, but just rumors. For instance, the Zhejiang domain is rumored to be the place of dragon transformation of a certain tribulation-transcending dragon king. As for the celestial king-level powerhouses themselves, they are still nowhere to be seen. This fact made Lin Yuan somewhat astonished. Although tribulation-transcending celestial kings are rare, they have long lifespans, and although it might be difficult to birth one in an era, over successive eras, there surely must be some. Where are all the celestial kings? This question from Lin Yuan made the elder in the purple robe's heart skip a beat. He became more certain that Lin Yuan was definitely a supreme immortal king from the prehistoric era. Otherwise, how could he possibly not know even this basic common sense? Generally speaking, those who could ask this question were mostly newly ascended celestial kings, and those without any background at that. Otherwise, if they had an immortal king-level elder, how could they have no knowledge about this? But Lin Yuan was clearly not a newly ascended celestial king, and although the elder in the purple robe had not seen Lin Yuan take action, he had long regarded him as a certain supreme immortal king. having the strength of a supreme immortal king while being ignorant of the affairs of this era. If he was not an old monster from the prehistoric era, what else could he be? Thinking this, the elder in the purple robe grew even more respectful. He did not know much about the prehistoric era, just that a cataclysmic calamity had occurred, causing even some supreme immortal kings to fall. A supreme immortal king who could survive from that era must be one of the exceptional ones among supreme immortal kings. Responding to the martial ancestor in the current era, most celestial kings in the tribulation stage linger primarily in two places, he said. One is the barren lands outside the 3,000 Tau provinces. Though dilapidated and nowhere near as prosperous as the 3,000 Tau provinces, they contain traces from the prehistoric era, which are of great help to us ordinary celestial kings. The elder in the purple robe slightly paused after mentioning prehistoric era, stealing a glance at Lin Yuan who seemed unmoved. The barren lands outside the 3,000 Tau provinces? Lin Yuan pondered. He had once explored the barren lands with his primordial spirit but found nothing of note and hence disregarded it. The second is the 9 heavens, but for us celestial kings, there isn't much stir till the 5th heaven. It's only from the 5th heaven onwards that there begins some usefulness, but the 5th heaven is hard to climb. Generally, only peak celestial kings or supreme immortal kings can ascend. The elder in the purple robe continued. I see. Lin Yuan nodded slightly. Since the transformation of the force of Taiji, the fusion of the Taiyin divine spirit and Taiyang divine spirit into the Taiji primordial spirit, he also had the invincible power of the 8th layer, which was the level of a supreme immortal king. He had already climbed the 5th heaven, but so far, he had yet to encounter any celestial king. After all, the 5th heaven is vast and boundless, even for a supreme immortal king, being there was like a drop of water in the ocean. Furthermore, Lin Yuan's Taiji primordial spirit was observing various marvels and phenomena of the 5th heaven, comprehending them with his against heaven's understanding, not specifically searching for other celestial kings. It was natural not to encounter any. It is said that the 9th layer of heaven holds great secrets related to the end of the prehistoric era, and all supreme immortal kings wish to enter the 9th layer of heaven. The elder in the purple robe seemed to remember something and immediately said. Lin Yuan's expression did not change upon hearing this. He had also heard of the legends concerning the 9th layer of heaven. The 9 heavens of the spirit realm were accessible even to Unity Realm true immortals, and it wasn't a particularly hidden matter. There's been a saying since ancient times related to the 9 heavens of the spirit realm. Beyond man, there is another man. Beyond heaven, there are higher heavens. Above the 9th heaven, there are celestial beings. This 9th heaven here is the 9th layer of heaven, and the celestial beings are not specifically explained. Following that, Lin Yuan asked a few more questions, mostly rather simple matters of common knowledge, like how many supreme immortal kings were there in this era and so on. As the elder in the purple robe grew increasingly fearful, he naturally told him everything he knew. One last thing. Lin Yuan looked toward the elder in the purple robe and spoke. Please speak, martial ancestor. The elder in the purple robe immediately responded, not daring to hesitate. I heard that tribulation stage celestial kings all wield some kind of power of creation. What type of power of creation do you wield? Lin Yuan asked. Through close contact with the elder in the purple robe, Lin Yuan was very certain that the latter had not developed an inner world. Yet, the elder's strength, as perceived by Lin Yuan, was not inferior to an 8th layer evolver from the main world. Without the reliance on an inner world, yet able to rival an 8th layer evolver who possesses an inner world, the key, he estimated, must lie in the power of creation wielded by the celestial kings. Martial ancestor, the power of creation that I wield is called innate purple chi. The elder in the purple robe stretched out his right hand, and strands of purple chi were swirling around his fingertips. Lin Yuan examined carefully. Could you give me a strand? If martial ancestor desires it, naturally I can. The elder in the purple robe replied somewhat perplexed, but as a tribulation-transcending celestial king who controlled a part of the power of creation, giving away a strand was beyond simple. All right, you can go now. If there is anything, I will contact you. Lin Yuan put away a strand of the innate purple qi from the elder in the purple robe and spoke in a calm voice. Yes. The elder in the purple robe breathed a sigh of relief, bowed to Lin Yuan again, and quickly turned and left. At a location many tens of thousands of miles from Xianyao City, the elder in the purple robe revealed himself, finally feeling relieved. It seems martial ancestor isn't one of those bloodthirsty supreme immortal kings. The elder in the purple robe was somewhat unsettled, recalling how some supreme immortal kings from the prehistoric era were fond of hunting immortal king-level beings. Martial ancestor asked many questions about the supreme immortal kings of this era. Could there be another purpose? After settling his thoughts, the elder began to ponder. He speculated that perhaps martial ancestor aimed to recreate the glory of the prehistoric era. Regardless of martial ancestor's intentions, I must seize this opportunity. The elder had made up his mind, for he had received a way to contact martial ancestor before their separation. This meant that martial ancestor allowed him to make contact. Being able to contact a supreme immortal king, especially one from the prehistoric era, was an incredible opportunity. Initially, the elder in the purple robe planned to steer clear of martial ancestor, not knowing the character of this supreme immortal king. He worried that if he encountered one of those bloodthirsty supreme immortal kings, it would be like jumping into a pit. But now, through brief interaction, the elder felt he somewhat understood martial ancestor. Although his knowledge wasn't deep, he was aware that martial ancestor was likely not one of those who killed indiscriminately. Martial Temple. Lin Yuan returned to his cave dwelling inside. Prehistoric era? And the ninth layer of heaven? In the elder's responses, the greatest reactions were to these words, revealing waves of reverent fear. Never mind. We'll talk about this later. Lin Yuan no longer focused on it. Whether it was the prehistoric era or the ninth layer of heaven, these were not Lin Yuan's most pressing concerns at the moment. What Lin Yuan really wanted to confirm now was the power of creation wielded by the elder in the purple robe. Innate purple qi. Lin Yuan lifted his right hand, and a strand of purple qi appeared, exactly the strand that the elder in the purple robe had left. This aura? Lin Yuan observed carefully, feeling intently, and ultimately concluded. This strand of innate purple qi actually had similarities to the cosmic force he wielded, the force of Taiji. Chapter 473, The Long 300 Years 2. The title of the previous chapter was wrong. The content wasn't affected. This is actually a cosmic force? Lin Yuan observed repeatedly and finally came to a conclusion. The innate purple qi mastered by the elder in the purple robe was, in the main world, a cosmic force that only an invincible being at the 8th layer could control. So that's how it is. Lin Yuan fell silent for a moment, suddenly enlightened. No wonder the tribulation transcending celestial kings of the spirit realm, without the support of an inner world, could rival the evolvers of the 8th layer in the main world. The world force emanating from the inner world of the 8th layer evolvers allowed human evolvers to catch up with those innate, powerful special life forms. There are few forces at the same level that can match the amplification of world force on evolvers. But cosmic force is definitely one of them. Even the surge in combat power caused by cosmic force is above that of world force. The innate purple qi of the elder in the purple robe, being only partly mastered, could once perfected, even without the world force, rival the peak evolvers of the 8th layer. Those supreme immortal kings, without an inner world, yet able to rival the invincibles of the 8th layer, must possess a power of creation that definitely belongs to a higher cosmic force. Lin Yuan thought to himself. The invincible ones of the 8th layer in the main world also vary in strength. Though the strongest cannot defeat the weakest, they can still suppress them, and the difference lies in the different cosmic forces. Some cosmic forces are simply stronger than others, and the former are known as higher cosmic forces. Opportunity. This is the greatest opportunity of my travel through the realms. Lin Yuan's eyes shone brightly. What was the greatest help that his 8th traversal brought him? Was it opening the 8th stage martial Tao? No. The 8th layer part could be perfected anywhere. Even without traversing realms, given time in the main world, Lin Yuan could still achieve it. Comprehending the rule model of space? There was no difference from opening the 8th stage martial Tao. It was not exclusive to the spirit realm. Before knowing that the power of creation wielded by the immortal kings was equivalent to cosmic force, traversing to the spirit realm saved Lin Yuan time and allowed for references to the immortal cultivation system and other systems. But now, having confirmed the essence of the power of creation, Lin Yuan was utterly sure that the power of creation was his greatest gain. It was irreplaceable, an unparalleled gain. In the main world universe starry sky, every cosmic force is unique, incapable of being replicated or simulated. Once a being grasps a certain cosmic force, no other life can grasp that same force. This is a rule from the main world. Here, rule is not about gold, wood, water, fire, earth, thunder, light, and other such rules. It refers to the restrictions from the main world. Just like below the Supreme Being, all life has a limit to its lifespan. This is also a rule of the main world. And in the cosmic starry skies, the fastest speed is the speed of light. Surpass it and you enter wormholes. This too is a rule of the main world. The restrictions of the main world do not apply in the spirit realm, at least not to cosmic forces. The spirit realm is much more lenient. There's no rule that a certain power of creation can only be wielded by one tribulation-transcending celestial king. Lin Yuan's mind was slightly thrilled, meaning he could completely grasp a great number of powers of creation in the spirit realm. Then, upon returning to the main world, these powers would collectively transform into cosmic forces. The main world's starry sky races have a long history, birthing many invincible beings at the 8th layer, but the vast majority of them master only one cosmic force. A very few, due to various accidents, have mastered 2 cosmic forces, which is already the limit. For a normal 8th layer powerhouse, there are 2 goals. One is to step into the 9th rank or to master some cosmic force. But for an invincible at the 8th layer, there is only one goal, and that is to step into the 9th rank. Only by breaking through to the 9th rank can one extend life, and continuing to contemplate other cosmic forces is, aside from being foolish or not, the key question is, can they really grasp it? Grasping each cosmic force contains an element of luck. There's no fixed direction. How can you be sure that the direction you choose will lead to a cosmic force? This is precisely why Lin Yuan was excited. If he hadn't discovered the essence of the power of creation, even if he knew that the spirit realm didn't have as many restrictions on cosmic force, he wouldn't have had any other ideas. To grasp more cosmic forces? Keep in mind that before fully understanding the Taiyang and Taiyang rules, even Lin Yuan didn't know that the Taiji force would be a cosmic force. Even with the against heavens understanding, grasping the next cosmic force would waste a lot of time, causing his other pursuits to slow or even stop. But now, with a clear path to pursue the power of creation, all Lin Yuan needed to do was like delving into the evolution path. Spend time contemplating and sensing it. Grasping a power of creation in the spirit realm and returning to the main world meant having a unique cosmic force. Innate purple chi. The human civilization's records of many invincible beings at the 8th layer do not mention anyone possessing this cosmic force. Lin Yuan thought to himself, though it was also possible that an invincible being of the 8th layer not recorded in history possessed the innate purple chi cosmic force. But the likelihood was low, and Lin Yuan's goal was not just to understand the innate purple chi cosmic force. He planned to go through all the powers of creation possessed by other tribulation-transcending celestial kings. Human civilization's interpretation of cosmic force is greatly helpful for stepping into the 9th rank in the future. Theoretically, the more cosmic forces one masters, the greater this help, but this is not emphasized much because it remains theoretical. Lin Yuan silently reflected. Chapter 474 The Long 300 Years 2, the title of the previous chapter was wrong, but the content is unaffected. _2 Normal 8th layer evolvers, even the most talented and exceptional, can at most master one type of cosmic force or at most 2. As for more, that has never happened before, because it's unrealistic. Comprehending a certain power of creation is very difficult for other immortal kings. They would rather deepen their understanding of the power of creation they have already mastered with the time they have. But I have against heaven's understanding, it's just a matter of time. Lin Yuan had a smile on his face. He had already imagined the scenario. By the time he returned to the main world, mastering dozens of cosmic forces and adding the amplification from his vast inner world that far surpassed the constraints of human evolvers. He might even have the chance to arm wrestle with 9th-rank powerhouses. Throughout history, even the most invincible 8th-layer beings could at most preserve their lives against 9th-rank powerhouses, let alone arm wrestle. That was seeking death. Because the way an invincible 8th-layer being preserved their life in front of a 9th-rank powerhouse was to hang on without dying for a while and then wait for rescue from a 9th-layer powerhouse of the same race. Under normal circumstances, 8th-layer invincibles had no capacity to resist against those of the 9th layer. First, I need to fully comprehend this wisp of innate purple chi. Lin Yuan collected his thoughts and began to observe the wisp of purple chi before him seriously. Your understanding is against heavens, you gaze upon the mysterious breath, beginning to attempt full comprehension. Your understanding is against heavens, you gaze upon the mysterious breath, beginning to attempt full comprehension. Your understanding is against heavens, you gaze upon the mysterious breath, beginning to attempt full comprehension. According to Lin Yuan's perception of the innate purple chi, this cosmic force was just an ordinary one, incomparable to higher cosmic forces. The Taiji force he controlled should be considered a higher cosmic force, simultaneously accommodating two extreme rules. Whether for attack or defense, it's nearly perfect. Xianyao City. As a common city within the Shenhuang domain, recently a large number of true immortal-level powerhouses, and even half-step immortal king-level powerhouses, have come, eager to see the martial ancestor in person. Whenever there is a trace of a tribulation-transcending celestial king, it draws numerous powerful individuals. Whether they can meet the immortal king or not, it's worth approaching first. Many pinnacle true immortals and half-step immortal king-level powerhouses have been stuck at their current bottleneck for tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of years. Seclusion doesn't hold much significance. Instead of wandering aimlessly, it's better to seek out the traces of immortal kings. There's nothing to lose anyway. If it sparks some insight, it would be cause for great joy. If not, it's within expectations. That's why. Now, Xianyao City has gathered a large number of true immortals and half-step immortal kings. Ordinary cultivators walking on the street might come across a renowned half-step immortal king. And these true immortals and half-step immortal kings are extremely low profile in Xianyao City, as after all, they are under the watchful eye of an immortal king, and no powerful individual dares to disturb the peace. Entrance of the martial temple. 3 figures walked out. So many true immortals. I've never seen so many true immortals in my life. Jun Haichio and the other junior members of the Jun family opened their eyes wide, looking towards the profoundly deep auras within Xianyao City. The Daoed Immortal Sect, as one of the 3 giants of the Shenhuang domain, only had dozens of true immortals stationed, but there seemed to be hundreds of thousands of them now in Xianyao City. And that doesn't include those half-step immortal kings. Moreover, as time passed, more and more true immortals and half-step immortal kings kept on arriving. In a great realm like the Shenhuang domain, there are typically several hundred true immortal-level powerhouses, and Shenhuang domain is just one of the thousands of great realms in Dongyuntao province. The Wuxia ancestor, as an immortal king, has attracted the attention of true immortals from dozens of surrounding provinces, hundreds of Tao provinces. Hundreds of thousands of true immortals? The number of true immortals arriving next is estimated to exceed 1 million. Jun Nangong said softly. 1 million true immortals. Jun Yunxuan swallowed nervously. If it weren't for the Wuxia ancestor, how could we possibly stand here now? Jun Haichio said with emotion. They had come to visit the martial ancestor and had soon met Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan told them to stay at the martial temple for a while and would find time to give them some guidance when he was free. That was why the 3 of them could come and go from the martial temple with such ease. Such treatment would probably make those half-step immortal king powerhouses outside jealous. Being able to freely enter and leave the martial temple is equivalent to feeling the breath of the martial ancestor up close, which is a great honor for those half-step immortal kings. Staying in close proximity to an immortal king is also a huge opportunity for them. Inside the cave dwelling, Lin Yuan was sitting cross-legged. Orange-yellow flames burned continuously within his body. Lin Yuan's physical body began to collapse, turning to ash that fell away after an unknown amount of time. In the blink of an eye, Blood rebirth operated, and Lin Yuan's physical body rapidly recovered, coming back once again. I can feel it. I'm almost done completely absorbing the orange-yellow liquid. Lin Yuan's eyes were slightly closed as he felt the enhancements to his body and inner world. Now, Lin Yuan's inner world was 5 times larger than that of a normal 8th layer evolver. Aside from the 33 times increase provided by the crimson liquid, the orange-yellow liquid had brought Lin Yuan's enhancement up to 2 times. This was extremely close to the maximum enhancement limit of the orange-yellow liquid 33 times. I should be close to encountering the 3rd type of liquid, Lin Yuan thought silently. However, in the process of absorbing the first 2 types of liquids, my divine skill blood rebirth has also been exercised and enhanced. A smile emerged on Lin Yuan's face. As a physical body divine ability, blood rebirth could also be strengthened, albeit at an exceedingly slow rate. However, after thousands, even tens of thousands of times of absorbing the liquids from the mysterious gourd, causing the collapse and then recovery of his physical body, blood rebirth was naturally able to be strengthened. This is good. It saves me having to go through the process again after I return to the main world. Lin Yuan was in a good mood. In the spirit realm, it took Lin Yuan a full 100 years to fully absorb the orange-yellow liquid. But with this 100-year enhancement of the physical body divine ability blood rebirth, Lin Yuan would need, at most, only a few days to completely absorb the orange-yellow liquid upon returning to the main world, because Lin Yuan had greatly elevated his comprehension of blood rebirth. He could withstand the burning of the orange-yellow flames for a longer period, the same being true in the main world. The 9 heavens, the 7th layer of heaven. The Taiji primordial spirit ascended, surveying his surroundings. I'll start with the 7th layer of heaven to see if I can encounter an immortal king. After learning that the power of creation wielded by the immortal kings was equivalent to the cosmic force of the main world, Lin Yuan was extremely enthusiastic about finding other immortal king-level powerhouses, especially the existence at the level of a supreme immortal king, whose power of creation could be equivalent to that of a higher cosmic force. Comprehending such a higher cosmic force would aid Lin Yuan enormously once he stepped into the 9th rank, giving him more than 10 times the benefit than from comprehending ordinary cosmic forces. Given the limited time, Lin Yuan naturally focused on comprehending higher cosmic forces. This layer of heaven, Lin Yuan released his senses, trying to spread them in all directions as much as possible. Lin Yuan's eyes brightened as he detected the breath of an immortal king. Whoosh! He headed straight towards the immortal king. Moments later, Lin Yuan stopped. Looking ahead, he saw a towering, burly figure standing before him, closely observing a spectacle similar to a black hole in the distance. What's this? Lin Yuan observed the towering figure, who was carrying a huge axe. Merely sitting there, the aura emanating from the axe felt as though it could split open countless worlds. Is this the open heaven immortal king? Does he wield the power of opening the heavens? Lin Yuan was slightly shaken. Among the many pieces of information provided by the purple-robed elder, the open heaven immortal king's destructive power could rank in the top 3 among the supreme immortal kings of this era, and his power of opening the heavens could nearly cleave apart anything. As if sensing someone's gaze, the towering figure of the open heaven immortal king glanced at Lin Yuan. Open heaven immortal king. Lin Yuan walked up with a smile. A short while later, Lin Yuan stored away a strand of the power of opening the heavens and left contentedly. As a fellow supreme immortal king, it was not too difficult to request a strand of the power of opening the heavens for study, as long as he showed goodwill. Of course, Lin Yuan also offered his Taiji power in exchange. Having never appeared in the spirit realm before, the Taiji power piqued the open heaven immortal king's curiosity, and he agreed readily and promptly. Just like that, Lin Yuan's Taiji primordial spirit remained in the 7th layer of heaven, studying the powers of creation of many immortal kings. 300 years flew by in the blink of an eye. Chapter 475 The Temptation of the 9th Layer of Heaven. Please subscribe. Marvels filled the 7th layer of heaven as a figure descended. We're here? Lin Yuan smiled, looking at a celestial king seated cross-legged in the distance, quietly sitting there, the void around him being invisibly affected, becoming exceptionally stable, allowing even ordinary people to survive. It should be known that even the first layer of heaven required at least the combat power of a true immortal to enter. Life forms below the level of true immortals rashly ascending, without the protection of true immortal-level powerhouses, simply could not withstand the pressure from between the layers of heaven. It was like this even for the first layer of heaven, let alone the seventh layer of heaven. Normally, only a supreme immortal king could reside permanently in the seventh layer of heaven. Supreme Immortal King. Lin Yuan carefully observed the Celestial King, one of the most renowned kings among the 3,000 provinces. The Supreme Immortal King was a Supreme Immortal King, and within the 3,000 provinces, there was one specifically named the Supreme Tao Province, the place where the Immortal King's teachings were passed down. Lin Yuan had once instructed people from the Martial Temple to collect numerous immortal path skills, including the Supreme Jade Purity Immortal Scripture, which was created by the Supreme Immortal King himself and intentionally disseminated. In terms of killing power, the Supreme Immortal King is not as good as the Open Heaven Immortal King, but in terms of overall strength, the two should be on the same level, Lin Yuan secretly said to himself. Among the Supreme Immortal Kings, there were strengths and weaknesses. Some Supreme Immortal Kings who possessed a complete power of creation were stronger than other Supreme Immortal Kings, and some even controlled several complete powers of creation. Compared to the restriction of lifespan imposed on 8th layer invincibles in the main world, the Supreme Immortal Kings of the Spirit Realm could almost be said to exist alongside the Spirit Realm, with ample time to comprehend various powers of creation. Martial Ancestor. The Supreme Immortal King opened his eyes, looked towards Lin Yuan, and greeted him with a smiling expression. In the past 300 years, although Lin Yuan had never officially made a move, the Supreme Immortal Kings, with their perception, were basically aware of Lin Yuan's unfathomably deep strength. Thus, whether it was the Open Heaven Immortal King, the Supreme Immortal King, or other Supreme Immortal Kings, they were all willing to make his acquaintance. Over the years, Lin Yuan made acquaintance with quite a few Supreme Immortal Kings. Those who were able to stay in the 7th layer of heaven were all Supreme Immortal Kings, and Lin Yuan proactively approached each one for communication, attempting trades for the powers of creation in their control. Open Heaven asked me to check with you. How are the preparations going? Lin Yuan looked at the Supreme Immortal King and spoke. I am ready. The Supreme Immortal King's expression became solemn as he seriously said, those old-timers from the prehistoric era who refused to die, they've hogged the 8th layer of heaven for so long, it's about time they made some room. For ordinary tribulation-transcending celestial kings like the man in the purple robe, it was difficult to get involved with matters related to the prehistoric era. But to the eyes of Supreme Immortal Kings, the prehistoric era was no secret. Since the fall of the prehistoric era and the start of the era of the 3,000 provinces, those Supreme Immortal Kings who survived from the prehistoric era have occupied the 8th layer of heaven. And they forbade Supreme Immortal Kings born in the era of the 3,000 provinces from ascending. Therefore, all this time, Supreme Immortal Kings born in the era of the 3,000 provinces, like Open Heaven Immortal King and Supreme Immortal King, have continuously tried to attack the 8th layer of heaven, aiming to explore the 9th layer of heaven. Whether from the prehistoric era or the era of the 3,000 provinces, all Supreme Immortal Kings were clear about one thing. That is, the 9th layer of heaven held a profound secret. There are people beyond people, heavens beyond heavens, and above the 9 heavens are celestial beings. This phrase was no rumor. The celestial beings here, it is rumored, might be existences that transcend the level of an immortal king. The end of the prehistoric era also related to the 9th layer of heaven. All Supreme Immortal Kings longed immensely for the 9th layer of heaven. However, for the time being, the path to the 9th layer of heaven, the 8th layer of heaven, was occupied by those Supreme Immortal Kings from the prehistoric era. How could the Supreme Immortal Kings from the era of the 3,000 provinces just stand by and watch? So for millions of years, every few 100,000 years, Supreme Immortal Kings like Open Heaven Immortal King attempted to invade the 8th layer of heaven. And just now, the preparations mentioned by Lin Yuan were for Supreme Immortal Kings like the Open Heaven Immortal King to once again attack the 8th layer of heaven. Of course, up to now, those supreme immortal kings from the prehistoric era still held the advantage, and the plans of immortal kings like Open Heaven to invade the 8th layer of heaven had all failed. The prehistoric era. Lin Yuan's eyes narrowed slightly. His joining forces with the Open Heaven Immortal King and the Supreme Immortal King, and other Supreme Immortal Kings wasn't just for the 9th layer of heaven. It was more about the powers of creation held by those Supreme Immortal Kings from the prehistoric era. In the past 300 years, Lin Yuan had almost gathered a thread of the power of creation controlled by all Supreme Immortal Kings from the current era. But he had not had much contact with those from the prehistoric era. After leaving the Supreme Immortal King, Lin Yuan returned to his own residence in the 7th layer of heaven. I have made significant progress in these 300 years. Lin Yuan sat cross-legged, especially in the comprehension of cosmic force, with the reference of powers of creation from various supreme immortal kings. In just 300 years, Lin Yuan had grasped over 30 types of cosmic force. Of those, 4 were considered higher cosmic forces: Open Heaven Force, Annihilation Force, Immeasurable Force, and Equilibrium Force. As for ordinary cosmic forces, there were nearly 30 kinds, including innate purple chi, infinite cutting, fluctuation domain, supreme yang thunder, and so on. Of course, these cosmic forces, Lin Yuan had only initially comprehended, without delving further into them. According to the categorization by the supreme immortal kings of the spirit realm, each power of creation could be divided into 3 realms: the first realm, second realm, and third realm. Lin Yuan had only grasped the first realm and then stopped delving deeper, investigating new powers of creation instead. Chapter 476, The Temptation of the 9th Layer of Heaven. Please subscribe. _2 This is also the most efficient method. First understanding these powers of creation and then bringing them to the main world to transform into cosmic forces. Although he had the world coordinates of the spirit realm, Lin Yuan could return to this world at any time, but it would cost 10 strands of world-breaking origin force, so he needed to be cautious. In fact, ordinary powers of creation are just a part of the higher powers of creation. Lin Yuan mused thoughtfully. Although the dozens of powers of creation he comprehended were all at the first layer of heaven, they involved 4 higher powers of creation. Take, for example, the immeasurable force, a higher power of creation, which encompassed a variety of ordinary powers of creation, including innate purple chi, fluctuation domain, and so on. Infinite cutting is also a higher power of creation, one aspect of the Open Heaven Force. Unfortunately, not all supreme immortal kings possess the higher powers of creation. Ordinary powers of creation, if cultivated to the third realm, are also close to the second realm of higher powers of creation. Lin Yuan silently thought to himself, most creation immortal kings who mastered several third realm ordinary powers of creation have combat powers that are not much weaker than those of Open Heaven immortal kings. The main issue is that cultivating higher powers of creation to the third realm is extremely difficult. Even Open Heaven Immortal Kings and Supreme Immortal Kings stop at the second realm. The dozens of powers of creation I've mastered, although they are all at the first layer of heaven, when combined, should they not be almost as powerful as the third realm of a certain higher power of creation? Lin Yuan secretly thought. If he only pondered 1 or 2 higher powers of creation, with Lin Yuan's against heaven's understanding, he might be able to cultivate them to the third realm in 300 years. But this did not meet Lin Yuan's expectations. There were so many powers of creation in the spirit realm, bringing them to the main world would transform them into cosmic forces. Quantity is definitely more important than quality. Quality can be improved after returning to the main world, but as for quantity, if not satisfied, one can only pay 10 strands of world-breaking origin force to return to the spirit realm. Understanding dozens of powers of creation was only a part of Lin Yuan's harvest from 300 years of cultivation. Lin Yuan also surpassed the 3rd stage in the perfection of the 8th stage martial Tao and entered the 4th stage. In Lin Yuan's conception, the 8th layer part is divided into 4 stages. Reaching the 4th stage means he's nearly at the end. This also aligns with many evolutionary paths in the main world, which are also divided into 4 stages for their 8th layer part. As for becoming invincible beyond the 8th layer, in essence it's also in the 4th stage, but having mastered some kind of cosmic force, it's considered an unreplicable case. Unfortunately, the main world has a lot of restrictions on cosmic forces. My Taiji force is a cosmic force. Future martial Tao cultivators, even if they follow my footsteps step by step, will not be able to transform into this kind of cosmic force again. Lin Yuan slightly shook his head. Of course, if the Taiji force doesn't work, one could try other forces, for example, the 5 elements force. Metal, wood, water, fire, earth, these 5 basic elements nurture and restrain each other. Once these 5 basic rules are fully understood, and the 5 elements rules are fused, it will probably be another cosmic force. Martial Tao encompasses all Taos, and theoretically, it has the potential to give birth to many cosmic forces. There's also the space rules model. Within the depths of Lin Yuan's eyes, faint spatial fluctuations began to appear. In 300 years, Lin Yuan has fully understood up to 4,600 core spatial models. Aside from the 3,000 understood 300 years ago, he has comprehended more than 1,600 more in these 300 years. To know, there are over 7,000 core spatial models, and as the number increases, the difficulty of understanding them increases. Under such circumstances, Lin Yuan was still able to comprehend more than 1,600, which is quite incredible. 4,600 core spatial models, taking the main world's 8th stage evolvers as a template, my inner world should have a size of about 680,000 miles in radius. The more spatial models one comprehends, the larger the inner world becomes. Theoretically, if 8th layer evolvers comprehend 7,782 core spatial models, their inner world could reach a size of 10 million miles in radius. But that's the size of a normal 8th layer evolver's inner world, the size of my inner world. A trace of peculiarity appeared on Lin Yuan's face. With the blessing of the mysterious gourd, Lin Yuan's inner world had nearly reached a staggering 70 million miles in radius. Such an immense inner world, let alone human 8th layer evolvers, even the Starry Sky Wanderer Kuan of the Peak bloodline and special beings couldn't compare. Theoretically, the upper limit of the Starry Sky Wanderer Kun's inner world is 50 million miles in radius, and that is why Starry Sky Wanderer Kuan is known as a peak bloodline with an upper limit 5 times that of humans. But now, Lin Yuan's inner world has exceeded the upper limit of the Starry Sky Wanderer Kun's inner world by a large margin, which is quite unbelievable. The most crucial thing is, an inner world with a 70 million miles radius is still far from Lin Yuan's limit. The gourd, the inner world size surpassed that of other 8th layer evolvers' spatial understanding by tenfold, naturally because Lin Yuan's absorption of the liquid inside the mysterious gourd had reached the 4th kind. Out of the 7 types of liquid, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and purple, Lin Yuan had begun to absorb the green liquid. The color of the mysterious gourd also transformed into a grayish green. The difficulty of absorbing the green liquid is far greater than the first 3 types of liquids. I started absorbing this kind 20 years ago, but until now it has not even increased my physical bonus power in the inner world by 1-fold. Lin Yuan shook his head slightly, predicting that the absorption rate would only slow down as he progressed, especially with the last 3 types, cyan, blue, and purple. Lin Yuan even suspected they might be prepared for 8th layer life forms. No matter what, I've already made a killing. Having an inner world 10 times larger out of nowhere, even supreme beings would find it inconceivable, right? Lin Yuan didn't know if supreme beings could achieve this, but at least with his identities as a 7th-level citizen coupled with being the Star-Lord and the founder of the Martial Path evolutionary path, he had never heard of such a thing. Now the power of my Taiji primordial spirit is far weaker than my true body. Lin Yuan thought to himself. Without the mysterious gourd, there wouldn't be much difference between the power of the Taiji primordial spirit and the true body. The true body mastered the powers of Taiji, open heaven, and other cosmic forces, which the Taiji primordial spirit could also wield. Even because of the nature of its soul energy physique, the Taiji primordial spirit could be a bit more troublesome. But now, due to the gap in the inner worlds, the Taiji primordial spirit's inner world is only 6.8 million miles in circumference. On the other hand, the inner world created by the true body has reached 70 million miles in circumference. With a 10-fold difference, the true body and the primordial spirit are simply not on the same level. The 3,000 Tao provinces, Shenhuang Domain, Martial Temple. With 300 years of development, today's Martial Temple has become a massive presence in Dongyun Tao Province. Its influence has transcended Dongyun Tao province, spreading to dozens and even hundreds of adjacent provinces. Across the entire 3,000 Dao provinces, the influence of the martial Tao cultivation system might not match that of the immortal path, but within Dongyun Tao province and the surrounding provinces, its influence is undoubtedly unmatched. Even the immortal path cannot suppress the martial Tao in the slightest. The reason is that the martial ancestor himself is personally stationed in the martial temple. Over the past 300 years, the martial ancestor has made several appearances to give lectures on the nature of martial Tao, leading countless geniuses and prodigies onto the path of martial Tao. Inside the cave abode, Lin Yuan sat cross-legged. Martial Tao now. Lin Yuan slowly opened his eyes. After 300 years of promoting martial Tao, the current martial Tao cultivation system had become the strongest cultivation system beneath the immortal path, second to none. Over the past 300 years, the occasional tribulation-transcending celestial king sought to visit Lin Yuan, only to sense a fraction of Lin Yuan's strength, as had the man in the purple robe, before ordering their disciples and descendants not to oppose the martial temple. Over time, the influence of martial Tao grew larger and larger. It is predictable that, with time passing, martial Tao might truly reach the heights of the immortal path. The only dissatisfaction for Lin Yuan was that, to this day, martial Tao had still not produced an 8th stage powerhouse. Despite several lectures, they have only resulted in a large number of martial Tao 5th stage and 6th stage practitioners. However, the 8th stage of martial arts, comparable to a tribulation-transcending celestial king, a warrior of the martial path, alluding to an 8th stage powerhouse, has yet to emerge. Chapter 477 The Battle of Ascension. Please subscribe. 8th stage of martial Tao. Lin Yuan shook his head slightly. The martial Tao cultivation system was so formidable solely because he, the martial ancestor, was present. Essentially, the foundation of martial Tao was still too shallow. Despite having a history of tens of thousands of years, apart from the 300 or 400 years when Lin Yuan was in charge, there weren't many achievements during other times. Just relying on a few hundred years to cultivate an 8th stage martial Tao from nothing was like a fool's dream. Even if Lin Yuan exhausted his own origin source to nurture a cultivator, when breaking through from the 7th rank to the 8th layer, if one's state of heart during the heart demon tribulation was even slightly off, it would all be in vain. As long as I can cultivate an 8th layer martial Tao cultivator before my time of stay runs out, the martial Tao cultivation system can become truly stable, Lin Yuan thought to himself. In Lin Yuan's heart, among the few who might possibly advance to the 8th layer, naturally were the old 7th rank cultivators Li Qing, Shanyang, and Ye Yun. As for those who started on the path of martial Tao in the past few hundred years, their accumulation was far from sufficient. The 7th layer of heaven. More than 20 supreme immortal kings, including Lin Yuan, converged in one place, their terrifying aura-shaking billion-mile radius. In the era since the 3,000 Dao states, over tens of millions of years, the number of supreme immortal king-level powerhouses born added up does not surpass 30, and now almost all of them were gathered here. The 8th layer of heaven. The open heaven immortal king stood towering, wielding a pitch-black giant axe on his back, his gaze sharp as he looked off into the entrance to the 8th layer of heaven. There, enveloped in clouds and mist, fearsome auras circulated ambiguously, clearly the methods left behind by those supreme immortal kings of the prehistoric era, to prevent later generations from entering the 8th layer of heaven and sharing the chance of the 9th layer of heaven with them. Last time during the Ascension battle, my strength hadn't broken through. This time it surely will. The open heaven immortal king glanced at the other supreme immortal kings, his tone filled with confidence. The power of creation he wielded belonged to a higher order. Moreover, it was a higher order power of creation adept in offense, making him the main force in each incursion into the 8th layer of heaven. And this invasion into the 8th layer of heaven was also referred to by the supreme immortal kings such as the open heaven immortal king as the Ascension battle. Open heaven, we believe in you. Exactly, those old fogies from the prehistoric era are far too greedy, even trying to monopolize the opportunity of the 9th layer of heaven. I'll deal with that missed immortal king later. The numerous ascension battles had left the supreme immortal kings present quite familiar with those old-timers of the 8th layer of heaven. As supreme immortal kings, even if they failed in their ascension, at worst they would only suffer heavy damage. It was nearly impossible for them to fall, so those supreme immortal kings from the 8th layer of heaven had never descended to the 7th layer of heaven to hunt them down. In fact, even if they did pursue them, it would be very difficult to completely kill a supreme immortal king. Lin Yuan stood aside, quietly listening to the exchange between the various supreme immortal kings. Among the more than 20 supreme immortal kings present, only Lin Yuan was a newcomer, having never participated in an ascension battle, so he remained silent at this moment. Lin Yuan looked up slightly toward the entrance to the 8th layer of heaven. With his perception, he had already sensed that auras of supreme immortal king caliber kept converging, indicating that the supreme immortal king level forces of the 8th layer of heaven also knew that an ascension battle was soon to be initiated by the likes of the open heaven immortal king. The 9th layer of heaven. Lin Yuan also grew curious about what exactly the 9th layer of heaven contained that made the supreme immortal kings from the prehistoric era gather at the 8th layer of heaven and jointly prevent later supreme immortal kings from joining. I will know soon enough, Lin Yuan silently thought to himself. The 8th layer of heaven. Vast and boundless. A series of terrifying auras all appeared at the exit connecting to the 7th layer of heaven. Those little guys below want to fight their way up again. But what's the point with their power, even if they get up here? A figure enshrouded in clouds and mist sneered. As a supreme immortal king from the prehistoric era, he was completely entitled to call the open heaven immortal king and the supreme immortal king little guys. We mustn't underestimate them. That open heaven immortal king holds the power of open heaven, and there's also the supreme immortal king who commands the immeasurable force. If they comprehend it to the 3rd heavenly realm, that would be troublesome for us. Another figure spoke slowly. The power of open heaven, the immeasurable force. Both were higher order powers of creation. In previous ascension battles, the open heaven immortal king and the supreme immortal king had only comprehended these higher order powers of creation to the 2nd realm. That's why they were easily repelled. It's just a trouble, the 3rd figure stated calmly. What if they truly understood the higher order powers of creation to the 3rd realm? Those long-lived supreme immortal kings, almost all of them had similar methods. In terms of talent, the supreme immortal kings of the prehistoric era, were in no way inferior to those of the 3000 Tao States era. In terms of cultivation years, they had nearly spanned 2 eras, far surpassing the supreme immortal kings like the open heaven immortal king. Although longer years of cultivation did not necessarily mean stronger power, they certainly couldn't be weak. Leave that open heaven immortal king to me. I also cultivate the power of open heaven, a similarly towering figure said. The powers of creation in the spirit realm were not unique and could be comprehended by multiple immortal kings. Since the power of open heaven was a higher order power of creation specialized in killing power, it naturally drew the attention of many supreme immortal kings. As the various supreme immortal kings were conversing, boom, a fearsome gleam of an axe, coming from the 7th layer of heaven, cleaved through the void and crashed toward the hazy entrance of the 8th layer of heaven. Enormous amounts of clouds and mist were split apart, and though they quickly recuperated, they were immediately followed by a succession of further gleams of the axe. Chapter 478 The Battle of Ascension. Please subscribe. _2. The youngster from open heaven. Enshrouded in mist, the figure furrowed his brows. Let's take action. Don't let them really advance up here. Brother Open Heaven's power of open heaven must have broken through again. The supreme immortal king muttered softly as he watched the axe lights cleaved by the open heaven immortal king. The other supreme immortal kings agreed upon hearing this. At this moment, the strength of the open heaven immortal king was terrifying. Every axe light was stronger than a full strike from a normal supreme immortal king. Such endless cleaving, even the supreme immortal king would not dare to intercept directly. Whoosh! Suddenly, the entrance to the 8th layer of heaven. Several figures walked out. Among them, a towering figure also held a giant axe. But this one was entirely blue, the axe light pervasive, directly blocking the offensive of the open heaven immortal king. "Lads, are you rolling down yourselves? Or shall we knock you down?" The leading figure spoke, his voice booming, echoing across the seventh layer of heaven. "It's Lingshu immortal king, this old undying." The tone of the supreme immortal king carried a hint of fear. Lingshu immortal king possessed a higher-level power of creation and 6 ordinary powers of creation, and all these powers were cultivated to the 3rd realm. His strength was terrifying to the extreme. Lin Yuan was sizing up Lingshu immortal king with somewhat heated eyes. The aura of the power of creation emanating from Lingshu immortal king included 3 types that Lin Yuan had never encountered before, one of which was a higher-level power of creation. "Let's go. Together." The supreme immortal king soared into the sky, and the other supreme immortal kings followed suit. Boom, boom, boom. In an instant, dozens of supreme immortal kings were engaged in combat. Each supreme immortal king's offensives impacted for thousands of miles, and if the battlefield had not been in the 9 heavens but in the 3,000 realms. The mere aftermath of these dozens of supreme immortal kings' battles would have been enough to destroy the 3,000 realms several times over. Countless true immortals and half-step immortal kings would pretty much die out completely. But in the 9 heavens, especially in the 7th layer of heaven, these aftershocks did not cause much impact. Or rather, the impacts that did occur, such as torn spaces, would quickly recover. Lin Yuan followed at the back, taking the time to survey the battle situation. Open Heaven Immortal King was entangled by a Supreme Immortal King who also comprehended the power of Open Heaven. Their fighting style was almost the same, a straightforward axe for axe, but the power of Open Heaven involved between each axe strike caused even ordinary Supreme Immortal Kings to tremble. And the Supreme Immortal King was battling 2 Supreme Immortal Kings together, wielding the immeasurable force with each strike massively overwhelming. Even when fighting 2, he was suppressing the opposition. Lin Yuan just glanced around and felt someone watching him. "It's been a long time since I've taken action. Young lad, as a senior, I allow you to strike first, otherwise, you might not get the chance later." A slender man stood in the distance, smiling kindly at Lin Yuan. "Allow me to strike first?" Lin Yuan pondered, considering how much effort to use, even though the strength of the Taiji primordial spirit was far less than the true body. But possessing the higher-level power of Taiji, along with 4 other higher-level powers of creation and dozens of ordinary powers of creation. Even though the dozens of other powers of creation were all at the 1st realm, plus the enhancement of an inner world spanning millions of miles. Combined, Lin Yuan's strength, he believed, was not inferior to a supreme immortal king who mastered the 3rd realm of higher-level power of creation. Perhaps even stronger. "Yes?" The slender immortal king nodded slightly. Suddenly, his expression subtly changed, because he realized Lin Yuan had disappeared. This disappearance was not movement or teleportation, but a true disappearance, vanishing from this world. Not good. The slender immortal king's expression drastically changed. Instinctively, he began to retreat explosively. But it was already too late. Lin Yuan's figure, unbeknownst to him, had appeared by his side. Then he gently threw a punch. This punch had no might leaking out, but in the eyes of the slender immortal king, it felt like his scalp was exploding, vaguely sensing a deadly threat. Split. The slender immortal king's skin burst forth with a lot of blood. The next moment his figure exploded. Under Lin Yuan's punch, his body was smashed to pieces. Whoosh! A phantom soul appeared, rushing towards the entrance to the 8th layer of heaven frantically. This soul moved so fast that even Lin Yuan felt unable to stop it, so he did not make a move. Pity? Lin Yuan shook his head slightly. The power of creation wielded by the slender immortal king. He had already comprehended it. Killing the opponent did not yield much benefit. The explosion of the slender immortal king's body immediately attracted the attention of other supreme immortal kings around. Those supreme immortal kings from the prehistoric era looked at Lin Yuan with unbelievable eyes. The strength of the slender immortal king might not be very formidable, but it wasn't too weak either, that he could be smashed so decisively by a single punch, Could it be that he had comprehended some high-level power of creation to the third realm? And was it a similar offensive power of creation like the power of open heaven? Only under such an unexpected situation, without the slender immortal king's prepared defenses, could he have been taken down so quickly. Ha ha ha, martial ancestor, I hadn't expected you to possess such strength. Open heaven immortal king laughed heartily. Although the slender immortal king did not perish, his physical body was shattered, and even if he could consolidate a physical body with his soul again, his strength wouldn't be fully displayed, and he certainly won't participate in this ascendancy battle. Martial ancestor? At the entrance to the 8th layer of heaven, Lingshu immortal king had not joined the battle. His task was to guard the entrance to prevent the supreme immortal kings below from sneaking through and stealthily ascending to the 8th layer of heaven. Chapter 479, The Battle of Ascension. Please subscribe, _3. When did such a strong being appear in this era? The Lingshu immortal king's expression shifted slightly. He was constantly vigilant about the battlefield, watching the fight between Lin Yuan and the emaciated immortal king. He vaguely felt that Lin Yuan's strength probably surpassed that of the open heaven immortal king and the supreme immortal king. This won't do. The balance has been broken. The martial ancestor cannot be allowed to remain. The Lingshu immortal king made up his mind. He had not anticipated that this ascension battle would add someone as exceptional as the martial ancestor. Such strength, yet it was the first time he was participating in the ascension battle. It was inconceivable. Under these circumstances, in the ensuing war, no one would be able to withstand the martial ancestor, and the situation would likely turn disadvantageous for them. I must make a move. At the very least, I must heavily injure the martial ancestor. The Lingshu immortal king looked towards Lin Yuan. At this moment, several supreme immortal kings from the prehistoric era joined forces, attempting to block the martial ancestor. But with Lin Yuan's casual movements, those supreme immortal kings were clearly unable to hold on for long. The Lingshu immortal king still stood there, but his true body was hidden deep in the void, approaching Lin Yuan. As the strongest presence in the field, the supreme immortal king, the Lingshu immortal king believed that with his methods, a stealth attack would gravely injure, if not kill, the martial ancestor. You are too weak. Too weak, and the power of creation you control is also quite ordinary. Lin Yuan looked at the several supreme immortal kings surrounding him. With each strike he dealt, their aura would weaken significantly. Just then, a dusky shadow loomed over Lin Yuan from above. Destruction? The Lingshu immortal king raised his right hand, and a dusky aura enveloped Lin Yuan, an advanced power of creation. The great destructive force. This was a killing power of creation that ranked alongside the force to open the heavens. The difference between the two is that the force to open the heavens attacks a single point or a line, whereas the great destructive force attacks an area. Massive and overpowering, all in front of it will be annihilated. Lin Yuan's expression shifted slightly. This kind of great destructive force was indeed the bane of energy, spirit, and life. Disperse. Lin Yuan's mind stirred slightly. He wanted to disperse his primordial spirit body. But immediately after, a binding force bore down upon him. I have cultivated the great destructive force to the third realm, and 6 other ordinary powers of creation to the third realm as well. The combined strength of 6 third realm ordinary powers of creation is almost not weaker than a third realm advanced power of creation. It's akin to me wielding 2 third realm advanced powers of creation. The Lingshu immortal king was very confident in himself. Even the open heaven immortal king could only defend when facing him. By lowering himself to make a stealth attack on this martial ancestor, he might even be able to shatter his physical body and completely rob him of the ability to continue fighting. No good, the martial ancestor. The open heaven immortal king, who was far away, also noticed this scene and instantly became anxious. He slashed out several times in quick succession, trying to restrain the Lingshu immortal king. But he was immediately entangled by the opponent in front of him. The supreme immortal king was the same, his immeasurable force vast and boundless, but alas, he was desperately blocked by 2 peer supreme immortal kings. Russell. Lin Yuan's brows were tightly knitted. Under the restraint of 6 types of third-realm powers of creation, it was difficult for him to move in a short time, and he could only resist the pouring great destructive force. The terrifying great destructive force descended, quickly causing Lin Yuan's primordial spirit body to collapse and eventually be forcefully reduced to nothingness. This easily? The Lingshu Immortal King was somewhat surprised. He thought that the martial ancestor's spirit might be able to escape. The martial ancestor! The Open Heaven Immortal King roared in rage. He could never have imagined that the martial ancestor would die. In the Ascension battle, the fall of a supreme immortal king was an extremely rare event. Despicable Lingshu Immortal King. The supreme immortal king's gaze was icy as he stared at the Lingshu Immortal King. He had seen the Lingshu Immortal King's stealth attack from the shadows with his own eyes. Humph! The Lingshu Immortal King let out a cold snort, unconcerned. Suddenly, just then, the Lingshu Immortal King seemed to sense something and his expression changed slightly. What is that? The Lingshu Immortal King looked down, toward the 6th layer heaven, the 5th heaven, 4th heaven. Within his perception, he faintly detected dull and trembling sounds from the lower heavens, as if some colossal being was continually trampling on various marvels and phenomena, and at an inconceivable speed, was piercing through one heaven after another, heading towards the 7th layer of heaven. The Lingshu Immortal King could almost imagine that the myriad suppressions and restrictions of the 9 heavens were almost as fragile as tissue paper in front of this colossal being. Even the barriers between the heavens were effortlessly torn apart by it. Boom! The next moment, the ground of 7th layer of heaven collapsed, and a figure exuding boundless vital energy appeared above the Lingshu Immortal King, looking down from a great height with indifference. The oppression that felt like the heavens collapsing almost made the Lingshu Immortal King suffocate. He nearly knelt down. Chapter 480 The Invincible Lin Yuan. Subscribe please. 7th layer of heaven, silent and soundless. All the supreme immortal kings who were fighting, whether they were born during the era of 3000 Tao states or the prehistoric era, all ceased their combat. They subconsciously looked towards the figure who, with absolute brutality and absolute strength, tore the barrier between the 7th layer of heaven and the 8th layer of heaven. In the spirit realm's 9 heavens, from the 1st layer of heaven to the 2nd layer of heaven, from the 2nd layer of heaven to the 3rd layer of heaven, from the 7th layer of heaven to the 8th layer of heaven, there are 2 paths. One is to follow the fixed entrances between each layer of heaven, which would allow one to ascend to the next layer. However, at these fixed entrances numerous challenges exist, such as the endless wind calamity, the 9-fold thunder tribulation, and so on. The other is to not use the fixed entrances and directly tear open the barrier between the layers of heaven to climb to a higher level. However, the barriers between the layers of heaven are not so easily torn apart. Even for a supreme immortal king, to tear the barrier between the 1st layer of heaven and the 2nd layer of heaven requires considerable effort, far less convenient than simply entering through the entrance. And the barriers between each layer of heaven are more robust than the last. A normal supreme immortal king might expend some effort to tear open the barrier between the 1st layer of heaven and the 2nd layer of heaven. But the barrier from the 2nd layer of heaven to the 3rd layer of heaven would require a supreme immortal king to give it his all. As for the barrier between the 3rd layer of heaven and the 4th layer of heaven, an ordinary supreme immortal king simply cannot manage it. In this battle to ascend to the heavens, the Open Heaven Immortal King and Supreme Immortal King from the era of 3000 Tao states chose to ascend at the entrance leading to the 8th layer of heaven. Because that is the simplest way. As for forcibly tearing the barrier between the 7th layer of heaven and the 8th layer of heaven, the Open Heaven Immortal King, the Supreme Immortal King, and more than 20 other Supreme Immortal Kings working together. It could indeed be possible, but it would at least take several days and nights. With that amount of time, the supreme immortal kings from the prehistoric era residing in the 8th layer of heaven would have long been aware, and likewise would have prepared at the barrier above, making it no different from starting a battle from the entrance. The Open Heaven Immortal King, the Supreme Immortal King, and more than 20 other Supreme Immortal Kings working together, would need several days and nights to barely manage to tear open the barrier between the 7th layer of heaven and the 8th layer of heaven. The barrier between the sixth layer heaven and the seventh layer of heaven, although not as tough as the former, would certainly also require more than 20 supreme immortal kings giving their full effort for the better part of a day or even 2 days to hope to tear it open. But just a moment ago, the figure that suddenly arrived, how long did it take to shred the barrier between the sixth layer heaven and the seventh layer of heaven? A breath? Or merely an instant? And this figure, it seems, did not only tear apart the barrier between the sixth layer heaven and the seventh layer of heaven. The barriers of the 5 major layers beneath were all brutally shredded without a moment's pause. This power is too terrifying. Even for the likes of the open heaven immortal king and supreme immortal king, such formidable supreme immortal kings, it caused their hearts to tremble at this moment. Furthermore, in the moment that figure appeared, an invisible and terrifying chi and blood domain covered 1/10 of the 7th layer of heaven, enveloping all the supreme immortal kings within it. Compared to the shock of the other supreme immortal kings, Lingshu immortal king felt almost suffocated at this moment. Merely approaching that figure caused the higher power of creation in his body to fall into dead silence, not to mention the 6 other ordinary powers of creation. You, who exactly are you? Which era's powerful figure are you? Lingshu immortal king asked tremblingly. As a supreme immortal king from the prehistoric era, Lingshu immortal king understood that the spirit realm had gone through one era after another over countless millennia. The prehistoric era? The era of 3,000 Tao states, those were just the 2 most recent eras. Before these 2 eras, there were even more ancient and inscrutable eras. Who am I? Just now. Didn't you sneak attack me? Lin Yuan glanced at Lingshu immortal king and spoke calmly. The Taiji primordial spirit, under the great destructive force of Lingshu immortal king's 3rd realm, transformed into nothingness. Although it was partly because Lin Yuan dismissed it intentionally, it was indeed due to Lingshu immortal king. At the moment the Taiji primordial spirit was sneak attacked, Lin Yuan's true body left the martial temple and directly entered the 9 heavens, following the principle that the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. He traversed through various marvels and phenomena, layer barriers, and arrived here. Sneak attack you? Lingshu immortal king was slightly stunned. Immediately, his face showed an incredulous expression. The martial ancestor earlier, was it this person in front of him? Lingshu immortal king found it hard to believe. The martial ancestor's strength was indeed very strong, even surpassing the open heaven immortal king and supreme immortal king. But that was it. In a one-on-one situation, even without sneak attacking, Lingshu immortal king was confident he could suppress the martial ancestor. The reason for the sneak attack was merely to resolve the fight quickly and, as much as possible, erase this unstable factor that was the martial ancestor. For Lingshu immortal king, who had lived through the long years, he no longer cared about whether it involved sneak attacking or not. The surrounding supreme immortal kings were also closely watching Lin Yuan. They couldn't help it. Lin Yuan's method of appearance was too terrifying. With formidable barriers of the heaven, the appearance was like mere thin paper in his presence. It was utterly unimaginable. The martial ancestor, he is the martial ancestor? How is that possible? No, wait, the aura is similar, they could indeed be the same person. Many supreme immortal kings, especially those from the era of 3,000 Tao states, initially were utterly dumbfounded, but as they carefully felt it out, they vaguely discovered that the martial ancestor, who they had good relations with, indeed had similarities in aura with the person before them. This similarity was fundamental, possessing the same power of creation, as well as that vast power similar to the world's force of the spirit realm. The difference is that the earlier martial ancestor, who possessed that type of world's force, if it were from the lower realm's One Dao province. Chapter 481 Invincible Lin Yuan, subscribe please. _2 Then the martial ancestor now could casually release a strand of world power that was as vast as 3,000 Daozhou states. Impossible, how could you be so strong? Even if it's an avatar or incarnation, the gap between it and the true self couldn't possibly be this big. Lingshu immortal king murmured to himself, voicing the doubts that all the supreme immortal kings harbored in their hearts. The difference in strength between the former and current martial ancestors was too great, and even though Lingshu immortal king knew such a powerful being would not deign to lie, He still refused to believe it. That's something you don't need to know anymore. Lin Yuan shook his head slightly. Under normal circumstances, Lin Yuan's Taiji primordial spirit was not much weaker than his true self. But alas, the mysterious gourd had brought about a tenfold increase both to the true Bodhi's internal world and to the physical body. What did a tenfold increase imply? The internal world expanded from 680,000 square miles to 70 million square miles, and the boost to the power of the world was far beyond 100 or a few hundred times. It was precisely because of his vast inner world that Lin Yuan was able to crushingly break into the 7th layer of heaven. Of course, apart from the physical body and inner world, the divine skill enhancement that Lin Yuan commanded also widened the gap between his true self and the Taiji primordial spirit. Enhancement is a physical body divine ability that can incidentally boost the spirit will of the soul, but its foundation lies in the physical body. The Taiji primordial spirit, which is only the primordial spirit body, is incapable of using this divine skill. However, the enhancement divine skill came with side effects. Unless it was absolutely necessary, Lin Yuan would not use this trump card. A thought flickered in Lin Yuan's mind. The terrifying power of the world, following the spatial planes of the 7th layer of heaven, directly rolled towards Lingshu Immortal King. The physical body of Lingshu Immortal King directly turned to dust. The higher power of creation, the power of annihilation, condensed into a sphere and fell into the hands of Lin Yuan. The other types of ordinary powers of creation were also integrated by Lin Yuan into his body. These powers of creation, especially the higher power of creation, were highly valued by Lin Yuan. Taking them back to the main world would transform them into higher cosmic forces, greatly benefiting his 9th rank Dao. Swish. After the physical body of Lingshu Immortal King shattered, an ethereal soul body flew out in escape. As a supreme immortal king within the immortal cultivation system, most of their methods are invested in the soul. Battles between supreme immortal kings rarely end in life or death, largely because the supreme immortal kings at most just give up their physical bodies. As long as they are willing to escape with their soul bodies, they could almost always get away. Too terrifying. The soul body of Lingshu Immortal King trembled in spirit. Just now, under the pressure of the power of the world, he nearly failed to escape with his soul body. This martial ancestor, his background is definitely not simple. He must be one of those terrifying beings from the earliest eras. Lingshu Immortal King's soul body tore through the void, fleeing towards the entrance to the 8th layer of heaven. You think you can escape? Lin Yuan disappeared from where he stood. The next moment, next to Lingshu Immortal King's soul body, a hand reached out and grabbed. Ah! Lingshu Immortal King's soul body let out a piercing scream and was immediately grasped by Lin Yuan, who proceeded with a soul search and then refined it into the purest spiritual power. The 8th layer of heaven, an area of winding palaces within a certain side hall. A man with a face that closely resembled Lingshu Immortal King opened his eyes. As a supreme immortal king who had survived from the prehistoric era, Lingshu Immortal King had many life-saving methods. Even if his true self perished, he could still resurrect within this body that had been prepared long ago. However, at this moment, Lingshu Immortal King felt no joy from his resurrection. His gaze was filled with worry and unease. That martial ancestor is too frightening. I have cultivated the power of annihilation to the 3rd realm and supplemented it with 6 other ordinary powers of creation of the 3rd realm, but in front of that martial ancestor, I couldn't even struggle. Lingshu Immortal King felt a chill in his heart. For the long years from the prehistoric era to now, he finally felt the breath of death. It was complete death. Given the strength of the martial ancestor, he will surely enter the 8th layer of heaven soon. Lingshu Immortal King steadied his spirit. I must inform the chaotic celestial king and the others. In the prehistoric era, although Lingshu Immortal King was an outstanding figure among the supreme immortal kings, he was not the strongest. The ones who could truly be called the strongest immortal kings of the ancient past were the chaotic celestial kings, who had led Lingshu Immortal King and the others to take charge of the 8th layer of heaven. These supreme immortal kings had mastered several high-level powers of creation and had all cultivated to the 3rd realm. Their strength was immeasurable. Of course, In the eyes of the Lingshu Immortal King, even if the strongest immortal kings under the chaotic Celestial King were added together, they would still be far from being a match for the martial ancestor. At least in front of the chaotic Celestial King, he could still talk back for a while, but the mere thought of resisting the martial ancestor was something he dared not even entertain. But now, the Lingshu Immortal King didn't have much of a choice, as the martial ancestor's entry into the 8th layer of heaven was imminent. The only thing he could rely on was the chaotic Celestial King and his peers. The chaotic Celestial King has been studying the 9th layer of heaven for so many years. Perhaps he has figured out some kind of killing move that can stop the martial ancestor. The Lingshu Immortal King had felt the power of the martial ancestor and didn't even dream that the chaotic Celestial King and the others would be able to repel, let alone defeat him. If they could just barely hold him off, it would be a fortune from the heavens. After Lin Yuan conducted a soul search on the Lingshu Immortal King, he learned many secrets about the 8th layer of heaven and the prehistoric era. So it turns out that the group of supreme immortal kings from the prehistoric era, led by the chaotic Celestial King, the chaotic Celestial King had realized 4 kinds of high-level powers of creation and had also cultivated them to the 3rd realm. After the end of the prehistoric era, the chaotic Celestial King led a group of supreme immortal kings to ascend to the 8th layer of heaven and has been trying to reach the 9th layer of heaven ever since. But to this day, they have yet to succeed. Lin Yuan pondered in his heart. The chaotic Celestial King had realized 4 kinds of high-level powers of creation and cultivated them all to the 3rd realm. In this respect, Lin Yuan couldn't compare. Although Lin Yuan had also realized 4 kinds of high-level powers of creation, they were all at the 1st realm. But Lin Yuan also possessed an inner world with a radius of 70 million miles, and with the vast expanse of his inner world, he didn't consider the chaotic Celestial King a concern. Has it not been long enough, and still, they have not ascended to the 9th layer of heaven? Lin Yuan was very interested in the chaotic Celestial King. The 4 types of powers of creation the other party possessed probably included 1 or 2 that Lin Yuan had not realized. Lin Yuan's gaze turned to the battlefield, looking towards the other supreme immortal kings. Run, quick, back to the 8th layer of heaven. The supreme immortal kings from the prehistoric era fled, without hesitation, towards the entrance to the 8th layer of heaven. What a joke. If they did not run now, were they waiting to follow the same path as the Lingshu Immortal King? Although they didn't know the full extent of Lin Yuan's strength, just based on the means he used to kill the Lingshu Immortal King, he was far beyond what they could handle. As for joining forces and resisting together, when the gap in strength reached a certain level, the advantage of numbers would no longer be an advantage, unless it was the Sea of Bugs tactics used in the main world. Otherwise, dozens of supreme immortal kings in front of Lin Yuan would likely be no more significant than toys, to be trifled with at will. Lin Yuan did not stop these supreme immortal kings from their mass flee. There was mainly no need, since above was the 8th layer of heaven. So where could these supreme immortal kings even escape to? For a moment, within the 7th layer of heaven, only Lin Yuan, the open heaven immortal king, the supreme immortal king, and more than 20 other immortal kings were left. Martial ancestor. A moment later, the open heaven immortal king mustered the courage, approached Lin Yuan, and tried to speak. Open heaven. Lin Yuan gave a faint smile, voluntarily reined in his aura, and casually greeted him. During the 300 years, Lin Yuan had a pleasant time interacting with the open heaven immortal king, the supreme immortal king, and the various supreme immortal kings. He did not intend to leverage his strength to overwhelm at this moment. The response from Lin Yuan let the open heaven immortal king breathe a small sigh of relief. At least by speaking this way, Lin Yuan was treating him as one of his own. He didn't need to be as terrified as those supreme immortal kings from the prehistoric era. Martial ancestor, what kind of power of creation have you mastered exactly? Seeing this, the supreme immortal king stepped forward as well, unable to contain his curiosity. The power Lin Yuan had just displayed was terrifying, and if he had not lacked some of the characteristics that were legendary for a king above an immortal king, they would have almost believed Lin Yuan had already taken that step. What kind of power of creation? Lin Yuan shook his head. Should it be considered cosmic force? The cosmic force nurtured within the inner world was a power entirely different from the power of creation and cosmic force. It depended on the inner world one had opened up. It didn't require enlightenment. As long as one had opened up an inner world, one could master it. Chapter 482 500 Years. Seeking subscriptions. Power of the world? Open heaven immortal king. Supreme immortal kings such as the Supreme Immortal King exchanged glances. They had never heard of such power of creation before. However, since martial ancestor said so, the power must exist. Let's go. Let's take a look at the 8th layer of heaven. After Lin Yuan finished speaking, he headed towards the entrance to the 8th layer of heaven. At that time, the entrance to the 8th layer of heaven no longer had the Supreme Immortal Kings from the prehistoric era standing guard. It was empty, with wisps of illusory power drifting around. That was the trial from the 7th layer of heaven to the 8th layer of heaven, a natural phenomenon within the 9 heavens. Even if destroyed, it would recover. Just like the barriers between the layers of heaven torn by Lin Yuan were now quickly restoring themselves. Just go straight up from the entrance. Lin Yuan took a glance. Previously, when the Taiji primordial spirit was ambushed by the Lingshu Immortal King, Lin Yuan in his true body was in a rush, so he bulldozed his way through with a brute force approach. Now there was no need for that. The entrance was right in front of them. They could simply pass through. The trial from the 7th layer of heaven to the 8th layer of heaven, similar to a soul illusion, was not unlike the heart demon tribulation and the tribulation of the spirit, but it was many times stronger than the latter. However, the many supreme immortal kings present had been tempered over a long period of time, and the strength of their spirits, even without deliberate cultivation, was not so weak that they could not easily pass through. Although Lin Yuan had experienced a relatively short period of time, his mental will index, having been honed in a supreme being's body, coupled with the nurturing of his vast inner world, was no weaker than that of the supreme immortal kings present, if not stronger. Whoosh! Lin Yuan easily arrived at the 8th layer of heaven. The environment here was similar to the 7th layer of heaven. The only difference was that there was a mysterious aura faintly permeating the area, originating from the 9th layer of heaven above. There are people beyond man, and heavens beyond heavens. Above the 9 heavens are the celestial beings. That's the age-old saying in the vast spirit realm regarding the 9th layer of heaven. The so-called celestial beings, as speculated by many supreme immortal kings, might be an invincible entity seated in the 9th layer of heaven overlooking the vast spirit realm. The reason why the supreme immortal kings from the prehistoric era and the many eras of the 3000 Tao states were so eager to enter the 9th layer of heaven was to seek the guidance of that invincible entity. This is the 8th layer of heaven? Indeed, it's extraordinary, different from the 7th layer of heaven. Open heaven immortal king and supreme immortal kings like the supreme immortal king followed closely behind. This was their first ascent to the 8th layer of heaven. During past ascension battles, they were all repelled by the Lingshu Immortal King. Now, following behind Lin Yuan, they finally realized their long-standing wish. The 9th layer of heaven? Lin Yuan looked up, gazing into the sky. Compared to the barriers of the previous 8 layers of heaven, the barrier of the 9th layer of heaven faintly emitted a pale golden light, and even Lin Yuan was not sure he could break through it. Or to say, confident about shredding it, but it would take a significant amount of time, as the barrier between the 9 heavens, once damaged, would quickly regenerate. The speed at which Lin Yuan tore the barrier had to be much faster than the rate at which it recovered. Let's go to the entrance of the 9th layer of heaven. Lin Yuan made up his mind. After the soul search of the Lingshu Immortal King, he was very familiar with the 8th layer of heaven and directly flew towards the entrance to the 9th layer of heaven. The entrance to the 9th layer of heaven. Dozens of figures stood there. These dozens of figures were the most powerful of the supreme immortal kings from the prehistoric era, each having cultivated at least one type of high-level power of creation to the 3rd realm. Most had mastered more than 2 types of high-level power of creation in the 3rd realm. The Lingshu Immortal King had so oppressed the supreme immortal kings of the 3000 Tao states era that they could hardly breathe. But among this group of supreme immortal kings, they were basically at the bottom of the ranks. In the prehistoric era, having experienced a complete era of time, plus the long years of the current 3000 Tao states, the number of supreme immortal kings was much larger and stronger than the immature 3000 Tao states era. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Lin Yuan's figure appeared not far away. Open Heaven Immortal King and Supreme Immortal Kings like the Supreme Immortal King also followed behind Lin Yuan. So many powerful beings? Open Heaven Immortal King was a bit overwhelmed. Only now did they realize how ludicrous their battles for ascension had been. Among the many Supreme Immortal Kings standing at the entrance to the 9th layer of heaven, just a few could easily suppress the 20-some Supreme Immortal Kings. Supreme Immortal King was also looking tense at this moment. Had it not been for Lin Yuan standing in front of them, they might have had the urge to flee. The head of the various Supreme Immortal Kings from the prehistoric era was a tall figure with a chaotic aura. He stood at the very forefront of all the Immortal Kings, clearly the leader among the prehistoric era's strongest Immortal Kings. Chaotic Celestial King. Lin Yuan's gaze was calm. Having soul-searched Lingshu Immortal King, Lin Yuan naturally knew that the Chaotic Celestial King was the strongest Immortal King of the prehistoric era. Martial Ancestor. The Chaotic Celestial King turned around, looking seriously at Lin Yuan. Lingshu has already told me. Your strength, Martial Ancestor, far surpasses mine. Whatever you want, Martial Ancestor, just say it and I will agree. The Chaotic Celestial King spoke frankly as if yielding proactively was not a matter of shame. In fact, that was indeed the case. Lingshu Immortal King had already shown to the Chaotic Celestial King and other Supreme Immortal Kings the happenings of the 7th layer of heaven. Including the Chaotic Celestial King, all the Supreme Immortal Kings from the prehistoric era acknowledged that they could not accomplish what Martial Ancestor had done. Even in many deductions made by the Chaotic Celestial King, even if all Supreme Immortal Kings joined forces, in the face of Martial Ancestor, they could at best only struggle to survive for a while before inevitably facing defeat. Knowing the outcome in advance, the Chaotic Celestial King naturally would not have any resistance, yielding and admitting defeat proactively. Oh! Chapter 483 500 Years. Subscription request. _2 Lin Yuan did take an extra look at the Chaotic Celestial King. That was good, it spared him the extra effort. Separate your soul fragment. Let me perform soul search, Lin Yuan said directly. He chose not to directly perform the soul search, which was a response to the Chaotic Celestial King's initiative to cooperate. Separating a soul fragment for Lin Yuan to perform soul search, compared to being suppressed by Lin Yuan before the soul search, had no significant difference, but it was much better in terms of saving face. No problem. The Chaotic Celestial King unhesitatingly split off a part of his soul fragment. This part of the soul fragment contained all his memories, and Lin Yuan only needed to perform soul search on this soul fragment to know everything he wanted to know. Lin Yuan took over the soul fragment from the Chaotic Celestial King. Within a few breaths, the soul search was complete. So that's how it is. Lin Yuan had some realizations in his heart. In the memory of the Chaotic Celestial King, there was the reason for the closing of the prehistoric era. A treasure fell from the 9th layer of heaven at the end of the prehistoric era. This treasure led to a great battle among many supreme immortal kings of the prehistoric era. That battle caused the spirit realm to seem like it had entered doomsday, with tribulation stage celestial kings falling in great numbers. Ultimately, as the victor, the Chaotic Celestial King obtained that treasure and entered the 8th layer of heaven with many under his command. After the prehistoric era, the spirit realm took a long time to recover, gradually entering the next era. The 3000 Tao States era. Up to today, the 3000 Tao States era is still in its early stage, not even 1,000th of the prehistoric era. Give me the treasure. Lin Yuan looked at the Chaotic Celestial King. In the prehistoric era, the Chaotic Celestial King was only one of the strongest. There were a few supreme immortal kings comparable to him, capable of compelling the Chaotic Celestial King to risk battling peers and initiate a supreme immortal king-level clash. Clearly, the treasure was critically important. This is that treasure. The Chaotic Celestial King hesitated for a moment, then promptly handed over the treasure. Having completed the soul search on his soul fragment, Lin Yuan's understanding of that treasure was no lesser than his, with no need for any concealment. The treasure handed over by the chaotic celestial king was an irregular stone, with faint traces of a mysterious force emanating, suffused with a primordial aura. This stone contains an aura of power of creation beyond the higher power of creation. As long as one can comprehend it, even if unable to take that step, one can still advance greatly in the realm of the supreme immortal king. The chaotic celestial king explained in a low voice, looking at the irregular stone in Lin Yuan's hand. Unfortunately, after so many years, I have never comprehended it. Even though I've been nearing the 9th layer of heaven, I have never grasped it. The tone of the chaotic celestial king conveyed an indescribable sentiment. The mysterious aura emanating from the 9th layer of heaven was similar to that of the stone, and the chaotic celestial king believed that being near the 9th layer of heaven for a long time would aid in comprehending the stone. But over the years, the chaotic celestial king's understanding of the stone had reached a standstill, and the mysterious power of creation exceeding the higher power of creation remained elusive. This was also the reason he was so decisive in handing over the stone. Because the chaotic celestial king felt that even if given another era, 10 eras, he would almost never comprehend the power of creation within the stone. Power of creation beyond the higher power of creation? Lin Yuan observed the irregular stone seriously. Compared to the chaotic celestial king's limited understanding, Lin Yuan hailed from the main world, understood the essence of cosmic force, and knew that power surpassing higher cosmic force was something only a 9th rank evolver could control. Lin Yuan carefully examined the irregular stone. Your discernment is exceptional, observing the mysterious origin, deepening your mastery over its power. Your discernment is exceptional, observing the mysterious origin, deepening your mastery over its power. Your discernment is exceptional, observing the mysterious origin, deepening your mastery over its power. Mysterious origin. Lin Yuan contemplated internally. One thing was certain. The aura within this irregular stone indeed surpassed the higher power of creation. Having observed it for a while, if it were any other higher power of creation, he would have at least grasped something, but facing this irregularly shaped stone, he still had no gains. Of course, the no significant gains here refers to the gains being too insubstantial to be noticed. The 9th layer of heaven. Lin Yuan stored the irregular stone and looked up towards the distant entrance to the 9th layer of heaven. Compared to the entrances of the previous 8 layers, the entrance to the 9th layer of heaven was incredibly broad, as if welcoming supreme immortal kings to ascend. However, in reality, after having executed a soul search on the chaotic celestial king's memories, Lin Yuan knew that the tribulations leading to the 9th layer of heaven were terrifyingly formidable. Inside the entrance to the 9th layer of heaven, there lie the life imprints of the 10 strongest supreme immortal kings in the history of the spirit realm. That is to say, to enter the 9th layer of heaven, one must defeat the 10 strongest supreme immortal kings ever to have existed in the spirit realm. In fact, to call them the 10 strongest supreme immortal kings is somewhat imprecise. They should be referred to as the 10 strongest beings, because perhaps some of the supreme immortal kings have already taken half a step beyond. The prehistoric era, the 3000 Dao provinces era. These are just the 2 most recent epochs. Before these epochs, there existed even more ancient epochs. No one knows when the spirit realm was born, and although the supreme immortal kings existed alongside the spirit realm, it doesn't mean they won't die. Not to mention, the end of the prehistoric era saw the demise of a great number of supreme immortal kings. With the strength of the martial ancestor, one could certainly make a breakthrough at the entrance to the 9th layer of heaven. The chaotic celestial king murmured. He had attempted it, but was unable to defeat even the first supreme immortal king's life imprint and was nearly crushed, managing to retreat only with great difficulty. Do you want to watch me make a try? Lin Yuan glanced at the chaotic celestial king. No rush. Even Lin Yuan would not underestimate the 10 strongest beings in the history of the spirit realm. It's not a matter of one era or one epoch, but since the birth of the spirit realm itself. Lin Yuan indeed intended to challenge the entrance to the 9th layer of heaven, but not now. He would wait until his power reached its peak before trying. Currently, although Lin Yuan surpassed such beings of an epoch as the chaotic celestial king, he was far from reaching his own limits. The green liquid in the mysterious gourd could still be absorbed further. The Martial Tao evolution system 8th stage had yet to be completely unlocked. A complete core space model had also not been fully realized. The cultivation of the Taiji power, too, had not yet reached the 3rd realm. The several other high-grade powers of creation, along with many ordinary powers of creation, were merely at the 1st realm. There was also that irregular stone obtained from the chaotic celestial king, which contained a mysterious power of creation surpassing the superior powers of creation. The chaotic celestial king might not have deciphered it, but that doesn't mean Lin Yuan couldn't. It was only a matter of how much time it would take. Lin Yuan was still far from his ultimate limit. During this traversal, Lin Yuan's allowed residence time had a limit of over 900 years, of which only just over 400 years had passed. Before clearly understanding what kinds of unexpected events might occur upon entering the entrance to the 9th layer of heaven, Lin Yuan naturally wouldn't rashly proceed. The chaotic celestial king had previously made an attempt but quickly retreated because he faced the first life imprint. That's why retreat was still an option. Lin Yuan wasn't sure whether, if he ventured deeper and failed, he would still be able to retreat. In such circumstances, Lin Yuan naturally opted for stability. Other supreme immortal kings yearned to ascend to the 9th layer of heaven because they wished to take that next step. Lin Yuan did not have this desire. In the main world, many evolution paths were perfected, and Lin Yuan had many directions for advancing into the 9th rank. His task now was to securely spend the rest of his allotted time, converting it into gains to take back to the main world. Right? All of you immortal kings, hand over a strand of your powers of creation to me. Lin Yuan surveyed the chaotic celestial king and other prehistoric era supreme immortal kings and commanded. Yes. The chaotic celestial king hesitated, unsure of what Lin Yuan needed so much power of creation for, but dared not ask further and obediently shared a strand of his own power of creation. Very good, very good. Lin Yuan looked at the dozens of strands of powers of creation, including several high-grade ones he had never seen before, feeling quite satisfied. And so it was. Lin Yuan, in his true form, stayed stationed before the entrance leading to the 9th layer of heaven and once again began his meditation for enlightenment. Time passed. 500 years flew by like flowing water. Chapter 484, The Strongest Life Form Since the Birth of the Spirit Realm. Please subscribe. Xianyao City, Lin Residence. Lin Yuan and Lin Jianpain, along with Xinzhan, sat facing each other, eating spiritual dishes while chatting. Over the past 500 years, the fame of martial ancestor had spread across the 3,000 Dao provinces. Even the strongest immortal king from the prehistoric era, the chaotic celestial king, had voluntarily submitted to him. However, very few knew about the parents of martial ancestor, which was also the result of Lin Yuan's deliberate suppression. His time residing in the spirit realm was limited, unable to protect Lin Jianpain and Xinzhan at all times. He could only try his best to detach them from the association with martial ancestor. Chong Air, try this spiritual dish, Xinzhan said with a smile. As Lin Jianpain also expressed great interest, the three of them finished eating. After a moment of silence, Lin Yuan took the initiative to say, I might not come back for a long time. With only a few more years left until his time limit, according to Lin Yuan's plan, this was supposed to be his last meeting with Lin Jianpain and Xinzhan. A long time. Lin Jianpain and Xinzhan looked somewhat disappointed, but they had also expected this, as Lin Yuan was simply too dazzling, overseeing the 3,000 Dao provinces, hailed as the strongest in the era. Such a great being surely had more important matters to attend to. Chong Air, go ahead and do what you need to do. We are very satisfied with our current lives, Lin Jianpain said. Were it not for Lin Yuan, their Lin family would still be a minor clan in Xianyao City, nowhere near their current exalted status. If you need help, seek Li Qing. She will arrange it well. Lin Yuan nodded. After leaving the Lin residence, Lin Yuan walked on the streets of Xianyao City. In the past 500 years, Xianyao City had already become the most prosperous center of Dongyun Tao Province. The city, having undergone dozens of expansions, now covered an area of several million square miles. Every day, numerous true immortals and half-step immortal kings came in and out, and even the presence of tribulation-transcending celestial kings was felt. The martial Tao cultivation system had spread across the 3,000 Tao provinces, in no way inferior to the immortal cultivation system. In fact, in the several dozen Tao provinces centered around Xianyao City, the martial Tao cultivation system even surpassed the immortal cultivation system. It could be said that the prosperity of the martial Tao cultivation system had reached its pinnacle. Not even those tribulation-transcending celestial kings or supreme immortal kings dared to shake it. My current strength has already reached a certain limit, Lin Yuan thought to himself. More than 200 years ago, Lin Yuan had already thoroughly perfected the 4th stage of the 8th stage martial Tao. Since then, the 8th stage chapter was pioneered, and as for the 9th rank chapter, Lin Yuan also began to try integrating the Taiji rule into the space rules, making some progress with the integration currently at 20 to 30%. In addition, Lin Yuan had already mastered over 5,500 core space models in his comprehension of the fundamental space rules. In 500 years, Lin Yuan had comprehended over 900 core space models, a pace not comparable to the 1,600 models understood in the previous 300 years. But it should be noted, out of 7,782 core space models, the difficulty of comprehension increases towards the later stages. Many evolvers at the peak of the 8th rank had been stuck on certain space models for thousands, if not tens of thousands of years. In just 500 years, Lin Yuan had almost effortlessly comprehended over 900 core space models, truly an abnormal and monstrous feat. Only over 2,000 core space models left to completely master the complete space rules, Lin Yuan thought. The space rules are a foundational rule of the main world, and many 9th rank powerhouses have yet to master it. Although in theory, the 8th rank has the potential to master the complete space rules. But that's just theory. In the long history of the main world universe Starry Sky, which 8th rank powerhouse has actualized this theory? The breakthrough from 8th rank to 9th rank requires the fusion rules, but as a foundational rule, the space rules do not require full mastery for integration. At the 8th rank, attempting to grasp the space rules or to discover more cosmic forces are both extremely time-consuming endeavors, arguably delaying the breakthrough to the 9th rank. With 5,500 core space rules, enough to uphold an inner world of 750,000 square miles, plus the 13-fold base enhancement from absorbing the fluid in the mysterious gourd. Now, the size of my inner world has already surpassed 9,750,000 square miles, approaching 1 billion square miles. The green fluid inside the mysterious gourd, being far more difficult to absorb than the previous 3 types, Lin Yuan had only managed to absorb nearly 99% over 500 years. In theory, absorbing all 4 types of fluids in the mysterious gourd could enhance the inner world by up to 13.32 times. Now that Lin Yuan had already reached 13 times, he wasn't far from completely absorbing the green fluid. Power of creation. Lin Yuan thought of the greatest gain from this traversal. The many gains before, for Lin Yuan, could be accomplished anywhere, not exclusive to the spirit realm. However, the power of creation, only the spirit realm, with the easing of restrictions on such a cosmic force and the cooperation of various celestial kings, had Lin Yuan made astonishing progress in comprehending the power of creation. So far, I have mastered 12 kinds of superior power of creation and over 60 ordinary ones. In fact, in the last 300 to 400 years, Lin Yuan had essentially given up on comprehending ordinary power of creation. Since each superior power of creation encompassed the essence of multiple ordinary ones to some extent, comprehending a single type of superior power of creation was equivalent to understanding several, if not dozens, of ordinary ones. 12 kinds of superior power of creation. Lin Yuan's gaze grew fervent. His focus not on these 12 kinds of superior power of creation, but on feeling the strand of primordial essence of power of creation in his inner world. Chapter 485, The Strongest Life Form Since the Birth of the Spirit Realm. Please subscribe. _2 This power of creation that had been grasped was precisely what Lin Yuan had comprehended from the treasure that had fallen from the 9th layer of heaven, given by the chaotic celestial king. The end of the prehistoric era was related to this stone-like treasure. The chaotic celestial king speculated that this treasure contained a mysterious force that transcended higher power of creation. But after spending an unknown amount of time and even dominating the 8th layer of heaven, he had not comprehended the slightest bit of it. Primal force. Lin Yuan's heart burned with eagerness. Relying on his against heaven's understanding, it had taken him over 400 years to comprehend it from that treasure. Lin Yuan named this power of creation the primal force, symbolizing the initial power of all things. The primal force of the first realm could suppress the higher power of creation of the third realm. Even Lin Yuan was somewhat shocked by the formidable might of this power of creation. There are still over 10 years left to stay. It's time to make a challenge in the 9th layer of heaven. Lin Yuan had made up his mind, and this was also the reason why he had bid farewell to his parents. Even if he were to continue his seclusion for another decade, it would not be of much benefit to him. Instead of doing so, it would be better to enter the legendary 9th layer of heaven to take a look. Martial Temple Hall. Lin Yuan was seated at the main seat, with dozens of warriors from the martial temple standing respectfully below. In 500 years, plus the previous 300, Lin Yuan had intentionally nurtured 8 7th-rank practitioners within the martial Tao cultivation system. And as Lin Yuan's direct disciple in the central divine continent of the lower realms, Li Qing had even created his own inner world, stepping into the 8th stage of martial arts. Martial Ancestor. The dozens of martial temple powerhouses spoke fervently, bowing towards Lin Yuan. In the span of hundreds of years, martial Tao cultivators have been emerging endlessly, often suppressing cultivators of the immortal path. But from today on, you need to be more discreet. Lin Yuan scanned the crowd, speaking calmly. Martial Ancestor is the strongest in the 3,000 Tao states. Even those tribulation-transcending celestial kings treat you with the highest respect. Why should we be discreet? A young 7th-stage martial Tao asked softly. Lin Yuan glanced at him. This 7th stage of martial arts practitioner, who possessed rare martial talent, followed the path of thunder and comprehended the Tao of world-ending thunder, excelling in the aspect of attack. After today, I want return to the 3,000 Tao states, and you will have to rely on yourselves. If you're not discreet, you're going to suffer. Lin Yuan said, his gaze distant. With Li Qing, an 8th-stage martial Tao cultivator stationed here, and the might left by Lin Yuan, even if he truly disappeared, for at least 1 million or even 10 million years, the martial Tao cultivation system would not encounter any problems. Lin Yuan said this as a reminder to these strong figures of the martial temple. Where are you going, martial ancestor? The expressions of the other martial temple powerhouses changed. What did the martial ancestor mean by saying he would not return to the 3,000 Tao states? Just take care of yourselves. Without further explanation, Lin Yuan disclosed that although consuming 10 strands of world-breaking origin force could allow him to descend once more into the spirit realm. However, unless it was absolutely necessary, Lin Yuan would not do such a thing. Even if the martial temple were to be destroyed one day, as long as the martial Tao cultivation system was still being spread, Lin Yuan couldn't be bothered to intervene. The 8th layer of heaven. The chaotic celestial king, open heaven immortal king, supreme immortal kings gathered at the entrance leading to the 9th layer of heaven. The martial ancestor has summoned us here, but what for? Could it be that he wishes to challenge the 9th layer of heaven? With the martial ancestor's strength, penetrating the heavens and the earth, he might indeed possess the capability to enter the 9th layer of heaven. At the entrance to the 9th layer of heaven, there are the imprints of the strongest 10 lifeforms since the birth of the spirit realm. The martial ancestor is indeed powerful, but compared to the strongest 10 from ancient times to the present, the supreme immortal kings discussed softly. The history of the spirit realm was unfathomable, but in those earliest ancient epochs, there were even existences born concurrently with the spirit realm. Even if the martial ancestor was extraordinary, compared to those beings born with the world, he would likely fall short. At that moment, Lin Yuan's figure appeared silently. Martial ancestor. Martial ancestor. Martial ancestor. The chaotic celestial king and other supreme immortal kings immediately ceased their discussion, bowing slightly to the martial ancestor. I am going to enter the 9th layer of heaven. If you want to watch, just stay here and watch. Lin Yuan glanced at the many supreme immortal kings. Having said this, Lin Yuan vanished, appearing at the entrance to the 9th layer of heaven. Is the martial ancestor really going to challenge the 9th layer of heaven? Quick, let's watch. This is an event that may not happen even in an entire era. I wonder how far martial ancestor can get. Many supreme immortal kings were invigorated, quickly engaging in discussion. There are 10 layers in the passageway leading to the entrance of the 9th layer of heaven. There is a lifeform imprint on each layer, making a total of 10 lifeform imprints. These 10 lifeform imprints come from the 10 most powerful lifeforms since the birth of the spirit realm. Although I possess the strength of the strongest celestial king of the prehistoric era, I had no power to resist in front of the first layer lifeform's imprint. Can martial ancestor defeat the imprint of the first layer lifeform? The chaotic celestial king was somewhat expectant. 500 years ago, knowing he was no match for martial ancestor, he didn't resist and submitted willingly. The chaotic celestial king only knew that martial ancestor was very strong, but he didn't know exactly how strong. Now, he could take the opportunity to gauge martial ancestor's true strength as he braved the 9th layer of heaven. The first layer lifeform, Lin Yuan stepped into the passageway, where clouds and mist swirled and quickly condensed into a humanoid silhouette. This silhouette, clad in red armor, stood there as if it were the great sun of the spirit realm, radiating endless light and warmth. The first layer lifeform imprint in the passageway of the 9th layer of heaven is the weakest among the 10-layered imprints. But it still ranks among the top 10 existences amongst the countless mighty of the spirit realm since its inception. Even for a dominant figure of an era like the chaotic celestial king, there was no ability to resist before it, utterly overpowered and trounced. You, the figure in red armor, looked down on Lin Yuan, its resuscitated life form imprint driven only by battle instincts, devoid of emotions. Outside the passageway, the chaotic celestial king and other supreme immortal kings widened their eyes in shock. The true combat power of martial ancestor could almost be seen from his fight with the first layer lifeform imprint. I wonder how many moves martial ancestor can withstand. The chaotic celestial king watched closely, expecting a drawn-out battle where martial ancestor might win but only with a Pyrrhic victory, and that was if he could win at all. Inside the passageway, Lin Yuan also sized up his opponent. Don't recognize. Lin Yuan shook his head slightly. Throughout the epochs of the spirit realm, countless strong had vanished into the annals of history. Lin Yuan was at most familiar with the epochs of the 3,000 Dao provinces and knew some of the prehistoric era, but his knowledge of the mighty from the more ancient epochs was very limited. The power of creation that it mastered is something I have already figured out. Lin Yuan immediately felt somewhat lackluster, planning to end the battle quickly. Boom! Lin Yuan raised his right hand and pressed forward. Terrifying world power surged out. The figure in red armor resisted for only a moment before it was crushed to dust by the immense world power. With Lin Yuan's nearly 100 million miles of inner world, coupled with the augmentation of many powers of creation, his strength was already extreme. No special moves or secret techniques were needed, just an overwhelming force. What? It's over already? Martial ancestor is too strong. Outside the passageway, the crowd of supreme immortal kings was dumbfounded. They had been guessing how many moves martial ancestor could withstand before being defeated, but to their surprise, the situation was entirely the opposite. The life form that ranked 10th in the history of the spirit realm didn't even withstand a single move from martial ancestor. Martial ancestor. Even the chaotic celestial king couldn't believe it. He had tried to breach the first layer and knew how terrifying that life form imprint was. Yet, the life form represented by this imprint seemed as fragile as an infant before martial ancestor. Inside the passageway, Lin Yuan breached the first layer and quickly arrived at the second layer. Then came the third layer, the fourth layer, the fifth layer. These life forms, represented by the life form imprints, weren't limited to the human race and included true dragons, skywinds, cheelants, and many other formidable beings. These beings were entirely above the supreme immortal kings, but in front of Lin Yuan, they were still as fragile as ants, no different from the figure in red armor from the first layer. A single strike penetrated them. Before long, Lin Yuan had reached the 10th layer. This layer's life form was the most powerful since the inception of the spirit realm, bar none. Surrounded by clouds and mist, Lin Yuan stood still, waiting. Soon, from deep within the clouds, a tall figure slowly emerged. This towering figure looked young, with boundless vitality coursing through its body, mighty and endless. Chapter 486 Where is everyone? Please subscribe outside the passage. Chaotic Celestial King and many other supreme immortal kings were stunned. Initially, they thought that after Martial Ancestor defeated the opponent on the first layer with one move, he would need to engage in a tough struggle against the subsequent layer's opponents. But unexpectedly, for Martial Ancestor, the opponent on the first layer was just the beginning. Second layer, third layer, all opponents were defeated with a single move. How was this possible? Could it be that the strength of the opponents in the first, second, and third layers were all the same? Many immortal kings thought it through and realized it was impossible. The only possibility was that Martial Ancestor was too strong. Just like how Chaotic Celestial King, a supreme immortal king, could resolve any tribulation-transcending celestial king with one move, whether they were just beginning or at their peak. My God, that is the Dragon Ancestor, the true dragon progenitor of the spirit realm, born at the dawn of the spirit realm, vanished before the endless ages. A supreme immortal king saw that Martial Ancestor's opponent on the 7th layer was a million-zhong-long true dragon, its dragon horns golden, exuding a noble aura. The true dragon progenitor, as the ancestral origin of all in the spirit realm with true dragon bloodline, it was said the Dragon Ancestor intended to merge his own bloodline into all beings' bodies. Thus, even though countless millennia had passed since the Dragon Ancestor vanished, the true dragon bloodline still lingered. In the Zhejiang domain of the 3000 Dao provinces, a dragon rising site once bore a tribulation-transcending dragon king. Of course, the dragon king was no match for the true dragon progenitor. The former, upon facing the latter, didn't even need to make a move, being completely suppressed by the innate differential in their bloodlines. The Dragon Ancestor was too famous, its bloodline lingering in the spirit realm without vanishing into history. So many supreme immortal kings recognized it at first glance. In fact, the power of Dragon Ancestor was indeed terrifying, situated on the 7th layer at the entrance to the 9th layer of heaven. That is, in the spirit realm's judgment, the Dragon Ancestor was ranked the 4th strongest life form since the creation of the spirit realm. However, in front of Lin Yuan, even the formidable true dragon progenitor was merely punched through. His dragon body pierced, the residual force of the punch shattering his remaining body. The many immortal kings fell silent. Chaotic Celestial King's gaze was empty. The life stamp on the 10th layer is actually Martial Ancestor. Martial Ancestor is the strongest life form since the spirit realm's birth. The scene exploded with chatter from the many supreme immortal kings. Being the strongest life form since the inception of the spirit realm was such a lofty accolade that they had never considered that this strongest being might be Martial Ancestor, who existed in the same era as them. Indeed, easily piercing through the previous 9 opponents, Martial Ancestor, Chaotic Celestial King murmured to himself. The previous 9 opponents were no match for a single punch from Martial Ancestor. If not Martial Ancestor, then who would be the strongest life form since the spirit realm's inception? The strongest life form since the birth of the spirit realm. I never imagined I would have the honor of witnessing such a powerhouse. Yes, surpassing Dragon Ancestor and Heavenly Phoenix Ancestor, Martial Ancestor is just too abnormal. The supreme immortal kings were greatly moved. But subsequently, the many supreme immortal kings then realized Martial Ancestor was the strongest life form since the spirit realm's inception, possessing the unquestionable greatest combat power. Chapter 487 Where is the person? Please subscribe, _2 But could this combat power and killing force defeat martial ancestor himself? It's unfair. There's no way to get through the entrance to the 9th layer of heaven. Right? If it's not the 10 strongest beings since the birth of the spirit realm, even the first layer can't be breached. To be the strongest beings since the birth of the spirit realm, yet to fight against one's own life imprint? How can one win? All the supreme immortal kings started discussing animatedly. The opponent formed by the life imprint would not suffer the slightest depletion of combat power, being capable of using all the methods, abilities, talents, and divine skills that the original owner possessed. That's why the reaction of the supreme immortal kings was so intense. For any powerful being, defeating an enemy was one thing, but defeating oneself. How could one defeat oneself? Moreover, the opponent formed by the life imprint had no emotions, only fighting instincts, which made them even more formidable. Of course, since both had identical abilities and methods, it was almost impossible for the opponent to defeat martial ancestor, but it was also nearly impossible for martial ancestor to defeat the opponent. This 9th layer of heaven really doesn't want us to pass, sighed the chaotic celestial king, looking up at the martial ancestor on the 10th layer. The 10th layer. Lin Yuan looked at the opponent on this layer. Indistinguishable from himself, with the same aura, the same fluctuation of vital energy, and even faintly emitting the scent of the inner world. The only difference was that the opponent's gaze was indifferent and cold, like a machine. This spirit realm? Lin Yuan shook his head slightly, although he had not actively integrated his life imprint into the spirit realm. But as long as one had existed in the spirit realm and exerted themselves, reaching a certain level of strength, their life imprint would be automatically recorded by the spirit realm. Lin Yuan stood there momentarily. The condensed martial ancestor made the first move. These strong beings formed by life imprints had no emotions or thoughts, only one idea, which was to defeat Lin Yuan. Boom! A terrifying aura pierced directly through the entrance of the previous 9 layers and spread over the 8th layer of heaven. So strong. Martial ancestor didn't use much effort in the previous 8 layers. The supreme immortal kings felt a chill run down their spines and immediately began to resist with all their might. On the 10th layer, even just the residual effects of an exchange between martial ancestor and martial ancestor, after passing through 9 layers and reaching the 8th layer of heaven, were still like heaven and earth collapsing. One could imagine. If the battlefield had not been on the 10th layer but in the 8th layer of heaven, probably the entire 8th layer of heaven would be destroyed. It might even affect the 7th and 6th layer heaven. This was simply inconceivable. Keep in mind, even with the fall of the prehistoric era, the chaotic celestial king and a host of other supreme immortal kings fighting with their lives only affected the surface of the spirit realm. As for the 9 heavens, not even the first layer of heaven was affected. Boom! 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 On the battlefield of the 10th layer, Lin Yuan and martial ancestor exchanged hundreds of moves in an instant. Martial Tao cultivation system, numerous powers of creation, even that wisp of primal force that surpassed the higher powers of creation, the forces of the inner world nearly hundreds of millions of miles around. Any method that Lin Yuan possessed, the opponent possessed as well. This is troublesome? Lin Yuan slightly furrowed his brows. The opponent martial ancestor could be said to be strong, and yet not strong. Lin Yuan felt it was not strong because the opponent was a replica of himself, and who in the world understood himself better than he did? But in this situation, there was no way for the opponent martial ancestor to defeat Lin Yuan, yet it was also difficult for Lin Yuan to defeat the opponent. Sadly, my strength is still too low. Lin Yuan shook his head slightly. The life imprint replica at the entrance to the 9th layer of heaven also had its limits. For example, it definitely could not replicate a complete supreme being. Just that Lin Yuan's current strength couldn't compare to the entire volume of the spirit realm, the inner world nearly hundreds of millions of miles in radius, not even comparable to a great realm of the spirit realm, so replicating everything about Lin Yuan was quite easy. Should I try the physical body divine ability enhancement? Lin Yuan thought to himself. The physical body divine ability enhancement was indeed the divine ability awakened by Lin Yuan's body during this descent. Once used, all of one's own being, including the physical body, chi, blood, soul, and mind, would be enhanced tenfold. Of course, it could only last for 10 breaths, and after those 10 breaths, Lin Yuan would enter a period of weakness. Ever since he had awakened this divine skill, Lin Yuan had never tried it, as there was no need. None of the opponents he faced had ever pushed him to the extent of needing to use this divine skill. Due to the side effects of the divine skill enhancement, this divine skill could only be used as a last resort. What if the opponent has also replicated the divine skill enhancement? Lin Yuan looked at his opponent martial ancestor. He then suddenly burst forth, using his left arm as a sacrifice. He crushed the opponent's right arm. Whoosh! The physical body divine ability Blood Rebirth automatically activated, and Lin Yuan's left arm quickly regenerated. Lin Yuan looked towards his opponent martial ancestor, and noticed that the opponent's right arm was also rapidly recovering. Blood Rebirth has been replicated, presumably enhancement has been as well. Lin Yuan immediately had a clear understanding. He knew that once he used the divine skill enhancement, the opponent would likely instantly use the enhancement divine skill as well. Although this divine skill has the effect of increasing one's own capabilities tenfold, if everyone is amplified, it equates to no amplification at all. The 8th layer of heaven, entrance to the 9th layer of heaven. Although the clash and slaughter between the two martial ancestors affected the 8th layer of heaven, with supreme immortal kings mutually defending, they could still hold on for a while, unwilling to give up viewing the battle on the 10th layer. The fight between the strongest beings since the birth of the spirit realm, perhaps after today, there would be no next time. All supreme immortal kings would watch, even at the cost of their physical bodies. Although Lord Martial Ancestor is not at a disadvantage, he hasn't gained any advantage either. Dragging on like this will only lead to a deadlock. Spoke the chaotic celestial king in a low voice. Even though the combat level of the two martial ancestors was exceedingly high, the basic advantage and disadvantage could still be discerned. Beyond man, there's always another. Beyond the heavens, there's another sky. Above the 9th layer of heaven there are heavenly beings. But this 9th layer of heaven, it's practically unreachable. Even the martial ancestor, the strongest being in history, is struggling so much. Who else could ascend it? A supreme immortal king spoke in a disheartened tone, feeling that the 9th layer of heaven he sought was nothing but an illusion. Beyond man, there's always another. Beyond the heavens, there's another sky. Above the 9th layer of heaven there are heavenly beings. The chaotic celestial king remained silent. This saying had existed for who knows how long. Even among the 3,000 Dao provinces, it extended into another meaning. That is, beyond the strong, there are stronger ones. Even for a supreme immortal king, invincibility is not guaranteed. At this moment, using it here seemed quite appropriate, even for the historically strongest being, Martial Ancestor, who was blocked on the 10th layer. Even if Martial Ancestor were able to surpass the 10th layer and enter the 9th layer of heaven, perhaps he would meet even more formidable opponents. The 10th layer. Lin Yuan was still clashing with his opponent Martial Ancestor. To conquer the opponent, the only possibility is to use a method that he cannot replicate. Lin Yuan thought calmly, yet his eyes were glowing. Unable to replicate? Lin Yuan looked at his opponent Martial Ancestor. You may possess everything I have, but can you possess my understanding? Lin Yuan's against heaven's understanding came from the door to the myriad realms, and since even the supreme beings in the spirit realm could not replicate it, how could they replicate the door to the myriad realms? Your understanding is against heaven. As you fight the opponent, you gradually discern the opponent's weaknesses. In an instant, many vulnerabilities of the opponent Martial Ancestor appeared in Lin Yuan's realization. Primal Force. Lin Yuan activated the power of the world, merging it with the primal force, which transcended higher creation powers, forming a terrifying strike that instantly penetrated his opponent Martial Ancestor. With that, the battle ended. The opponent Martial Ancestor stood there stunned. His inner world began to collapse rapidly under Lin Yuan's strike, and his physical body started to disintegrate into dust. Crashing sounds. The opponent on the 10th layer disappeared. Lin Yuan stepped forward, vanishing from the 10th layer. The 9th layer of heaven. Clouds billowed, endless and vast. Lin Yuan stood alone on the peak of a mountain. They say there are always greater skies beyond the heavens, and greater people beyond men. Above the 9th layer of heaven there are heavenly beings. Lin Yuan looked around. All creatures and matters lay beneath his feet, standing alone on the mountain peak, overlooking as though in the vast world, he was alone. But where are the people? Chapter 488 Return. End of this volume. Please subscribe. 8th layer of heaven. A host of supreme immortal kings fell silent. Martial ancestor. Has martial ancestor ascended to the 9th layer of heaven? After a long while, supreme immortal king's voice trembled slightly. As supreme immortal kings, even those born during the epochs of 3,000 Tao provinces, who ruled over the universe, had long since ceased to feel shock. But in the last few hundred years, due to martial ancestors' emergence, they, the supreme immortal kings, had their understanding refreshed time and again. Now, he had even ascended to the 9th layer of heaven, achieving the ultimate goal that all immortal kings had aspired to throughout the epochs. He must have ascended. The open heaven immortal king took a deep breath. Beyond the 10th layer lies the 9th layer of heaven. Martial ancestor is now in the 9th layer of heaven. The many immortal kings at the scene exchanged glances, their thoughts numerous and complex. Though ascending to the 9th layer of heaven had nothing to do with them, they all bore witness to martial ancestors' ascent, feeling an inexplicable sense of involvement. Who knows what lies in the 9th layer of heaven? Is it like the previous 8 layers, filled with wonders and anomalies? It's unclear, but it is said that there are Tianren in the 9th layer of heaven. I wonder if martial ancestor has encountered them? We have witnessed a grand event in the history of the spirit realm, making this life worthwhile. The supreme immortal kings conversed in detail, previously segregated into factions of prehistoric era kings and 3,000 Tao provinces era kings based on the epochs they hailed from. But now, all supreme immortal kings, forsaking their factional divides, faced the significant event of martial ancestor ascending to the 9th layer of heaven, aware that there was no difference among spirit realm beings in its presence. 9th layer of heaven. There probably will be no one else who can ascend to the 9th layer of heaven after this. The chaotic celestial king looked towards the entrance of the 9th layer of heaven and sighed softly. The other supreme immortal kings, hearing this, felt an immediate connection. Ascending to the 9th layer of heaven was the goal of all powerhouses in the spirit realm, and in the distant past, during ancient epochs unknown to all present immortal kings, perhaps some powerhouse had ascended to the 9th layer of heaven, such as the dragon ancestor, whose place in the 7th layer of the brand of life mysteriously disappeared, possibly entering the 9th layer of heaven, and the phoenix ancestor, among others. Chapter 489 Return. End of this volume. Please subscribe. _2 at the highest point of space, where all meanings converge to the highest. A corner of a vast world countless times larger than the spirit realm came into view. The immortal realm. This is the legendary immortal realm. Lin Yuan's expression was pensive as he thought about the legends of the immortal realm, which were always prevalent in the spirit realm. That was the true upper domain, the dwelling place of the ancestral master. The so-called ancestral master or ancestor of the immortal path is the source of the immortal cultivation system, and if described by the main world, it is the ultimate in an evolutionary system. That is, the supreme being. Back in the central divine China world, Lin Yuan had faintly sensed the fearsome nature of the immortal cultivation system, which was hardly inferior to those 9 supreme evolutionary systems of the main world. Therefore, Lin Yuan speculated that perhaps there was already an ultimate existence in the immortal cultivation system, and the flourishing of the immortal cultivation system in the central divine China world could also be the will of that ultimate being. It was for that reason that Lin Yuan did not spread the immortal cultivation system in the main world. For ultimate beings, they can clearly sense every life that cultivates their own system. The spirit realm and even the space-time where the immortal realm exists are not in the same dimensional plane as the main world. Even beings as strong as the Supreme Ones cannot cross different dimensional planes to descend into another spacetime. But if there was a guiding mark, it would be different, akin to a compass in the vast sea. And the lives that cultivate the immortal cultivation system serve as a guiding mark for the ancestor of the immortal path. Spreading the immortal cultivation system in the main world would not only increase the intangible foundation of that ancestor of the immortal path, but also stand a chance of enabling them to lock in the spacetime coordinates of the main world. Naturally, Lin Yuan would not engage in something with such great potential danger. Moreover, this approach had another downside. If he could sense the ultimate existence of the immortal cultivation system, so too could the supreme beings of human civilization in the main world. At that time, how would Lin Yuan explain to the supreme beings of human civilization? Spreading the martial path, evolutionary path, was because it was established by Lin Yuan himself, and it had never brought forth an ultimate. The first world that Lin Yuan traversed was the place where he got the initial inspiration for the martial arts evolution system, and the subsequent development of martial Tao was completely his own path. This immortal realm, since it can give birth to an ultimate existence like the ancestor of the immortal path, it must not be much weaker than the main world, and even if there are differences, they are probably on the same level. Lin Yuan thought to himself as his gaze still fixed on the corner of the immortal realm at the highest point in space. This was the second time Lin Yuan had seen the immortal realm. The first time was before traveling through worlds, when he extended a thread of his spirit into the door to the myriad realms and took an overall look at the spirit realm with the perspective of the door to the myriad realms, also noticing the massive world located above the spirit realm. The second time was right now. Over the past few hundred years, Lin Yuan had fully cultivated and even managed to tear through the spirit realm space to enter the chaos of void outside the world. But he had not felt the aura of the immortal realm. It was as if the location of the immortal realm was in a different spatial layer than the spirit realm. Only after reaching the 9th layer of heaven could one detect the specific location of the immortal realm. Of course, with the perspective of the door to the myriad realms, Lin Yuan could also detect the immortal realm, purely because the door to the myriad realms was of too high an essence. From the perspective of the door to the myriad realms, no matter how many spatial layers separate the immortal and spirit realms, neither can hide. The immortal realm. Lin Yuan closely observed the massive world at the highest point in space. Just at that moment, deep within Lin Yuan's mind, the towering and magnificent door to the myriad realms suddenly began to glow. An invisible wave seemed to spread instantly towards the immortal realm. A moment later, information passed from the door to the myriad realms. The immortal realm, the world coordinates of the immortal realm. A smile appeared on Lin Yuan's face. The 9th layer of heaven in the spirit realm and the immortal realm are on the same spatial layer. That is why it is possible to see a corner of the immortal realm. Under such circumstances, it is possible to determine the coordinates of the immortal realm from the 9th layer of heaven. The door to the myriad realms being capable of replicating world coordinates was something Lin Yuan already knew in the central divine China world when he copied the world coordinates of the spirit realm via the ascension platform. So now, being this close to the immortal realm and locking onto its world coordinates was not something strange. From the 9th layer of heaven, flying straight up, one day, I could get close to the immortal realm, or even enter it. Lin Yuan thought to himself, if you tear open the space of the spirit realm to go beyond it, there's hardly any chance to get close to the immortal realm because the spatial layer of the spirit realm is not the same as that of the immortal realm. But the area of the 9th layer of heaven is on the same layer as the immortal realm, and flying continually towards the target can get you increasingly close to the immortal realm. Never mind. There's not enough time. Lin Yuan thought it over and abandoned the idea of entering the immortal realm. One reason is that he has only a little over 10 years left before his stay duration limit. Even if he flew straight up from the 9th layer of heaven, he would probably have to return to the main world mid-journey. The second is now that the coordinates of the immortal realm have been obtained, whether to descend into the immortal realm, and when to make the descent is entirely up to Lin Yuan. In the next decade or so, he'll just cultivate in the 9th layer of heaven. Lin Yuan glanced at the endless rolling sea of clouds beneath his feet and made up his mind. The 9th layer of heaven was thick with a mysterious aura, especially suitable for comprehending the power of creation, Although Lin Yuan's comprehension was heaven-defying, he would not reject such assistance. Time slowly passed by. In the blink of an eye, 17 years had gone by. Name: Lin Chong, Lin Yuan. Identity: holder of the Myriad Realms Gate. Bonded talent: heaven-defying comprehension. Divine skills: blood resurrection. Divine skills: strengthening. Current status: consciousness descent. Remaining residence time. One day Lin Yuan opened his eyes and glanced at the ethereal text below his line of sight. It's about time to head back. Lin Yuan stood up, overlooking the boundless sea of clouds below. For the last decade or so, Lin Yuan had spent most of his time comprehending the power of creation. His understanding of the Taiji force had already reached the third realm. In addition, 7 types of higher power of creation had also been comprehended to the second realm. You should know that for the supreme immortal kings of the spirit realm, advancing further in the power of creation could take tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of years. In just over a decade, Lin Yuan managed to achieve such results. In addition to his own heaven-defying comprehension, the environment of the 9th layer of heaven also played a significant role. Lastly, I need to decide how to deal with this body. Lin Yuan's expression became contemplative. This body, refined over nearly 1,000 years, could genuinely be considered the fruit of his labor. Once Lin Yuan returned, his spirit will would go back to the main world, and his body could not be directly taken with him. This would be somewhat wasteful. Well then, I'll give you a break. Lin Yuan's thoughts moved slightly, and a palm-sized bell-shaped treasure appeared in front of him. It was the Origin Fine Gold. Sometime after returning to the spirit realm, Lin Yuan had summoned this piece of Origin Fine Gold and had been nurturing it within his body. Lin Yuan's expression changed slightly, and he immediately began to suppress the expansion of his inner world, causing it to halt. If he let his inner world expand uncontrollably, it probably would not be long before his entire being was drained dry. The energy needed for 27,500,000 miles in circumference was too terrifying. In the spirit realm, it took Lin Yuan 200 to 300 years to grow slowly. Now, condensing those 200 to 300 years into a short time, Lin Yuan almost couldn't bear it. What a pity! I can't rely on my teacher this time. Lin Yuan nodded slightly. For the past few expansions of his inner world, Lin Yuan had relied on the scarlet spirit liquid he had applied for. It was a privilege of being one of the 13 peak masters of the Red Kuan lineage, allowing him to request an unlimited amount of scarlet spirit liquid. But now, it's not that Lin Yuan had lost this privilege. However, to expand the inner world to 37,500,000 miles in circumference, the scarlet spirit liquid needed would probably be heavier than the Chikuan main star. How many of the 8th layer and even higher rank evolution paths recorded in human civilization have delved into the cosmic force? In the descriptions of the cosmic force by human civilization and other peak clans, it was fundamentally regarded as impossible to replicate and entirely random. The moment Lin Yuan finished uploading the 8th stage Martial Tao, on a mysterious planet, incredibly distant from the Milky Way main star, screens flashed frantically, beginning to extrapolate the potential and details of the 8th stage Martial Tao. Detection of 8th layer part relating to numerous unknown cosmic forces, greatly enhancing the potential depth, reassessment of Martial Path evolutionary path underway. Discovery of 8th layer part enhancing the fundamental explanation of rules, overall evaluation of Martial Path evolutionary path rising. Discovering, triggering human civilization core contingency plans, contact with Goddess of Freedom, Goddess of Justice, among others. Triggering human civilization core contingency plans, contact with Xia Qin Supreme Being, Feather Butterfly Supreme Being. The 3 goddesses spared no computational power, repeatedly extrapolating the various extensions of the 8th stage Martial Tao, I wonder what the evaluation of the three goddesses will be for the 8th layer part? On the Milky Way main star, Lin Yuan was somewhat expectant. He had put a lot of effort into developing the 8th layer part. Outside the Milky Way main star, in the depths of layer upon layer of space, 5 invincible 8th rank beings, led by the dark-scale race Sarath, were still waiting patiently. They appeared to be shrewd hunters lurking in the darkness, waiting for their prey to emerge. If this rule did not exist, the struggles among the clan alliances would become disastrously chaotic, even involving frequent interventions by supreme beings. This would be disastrous for all the major peak clans. Of course, unspoken rules are just that, unspoken. Even though the 5 8th rank invincible different species did not break this rule, once they truly succeeded in completely killing the Galaxy Master, human civilization would be furious. Specifically, this would manifest in targeting them intentionally on the different species' battlefields, or even escalating the war against the insect race. The hostile murderous intents from the Human Civilization Alliance, which even the insect race from another peak clan could resist, meant that the clans behind these 5 8th rank invincibles would inevitably suffer heavy losses, even risking extinction. 10,000 years ago, when a disciple of the Chikuan Star Lord died, the Chikuan Star Lord called on his friends, and several dozen 8th rank invincibles descended simultaneously on several medium-sized otherworldly battlefields, nearly tearing those battlefields apart. The Chikuan Star Lord's disciple, although highly talented, did not compare to the Galaxy Master. Even so, that situation had caused such a significant impact. One could imagine what calamity the Human Civilization Alliance would cause once the Galaxy Master truly died. Of course, the insect race made many promises to these 5 8th rank invincibles, guaranteeing that their clans would not be affected, and the rewards they would receive upon success would be worth their gamble. Virtual world. In a mysterious space, 9 grand thrones stood tall. Suddenly, 3 of the grand thrones solidified into formidable figures. One of those towering figures was Xia Qin, a supreme being. Goddess of wisdom, Xia Qin supreme being glanced, and also goddess of freedom, goddess of justice. The 3 goddesses, the ultimate intelligence of human civilization, had status equal to the 9 supreme beings. Xia Qin supreme being, feather butterfly supreme being, and ancient power supreme being. The solemn and serene voice of the goddess of wisdom echoed through the mysterious space. 9 supreme beings existed in human civilization, but they each presided over a region, each occupied with their own tasks. Generally, when the 3 goddesses contacted the supreme beings, having 2 or 3 of them respond was usually sufficient. Our human civilization will soon have another 8th layer evolution path confirmed by you, continued the goddess of wisdom. Oh! Another entirely new 8th layer evolution path has emerged? Xia Qin Supreme being raised an eyebrow. To birth an 8th layer evolution path, unlike producing an 8th stage evolver, falls entirely under a different concept. Chapter 493, Ranking of Human Civilization Evolution Paths. Subscribe please. _2 His talent and aptitude were sufficient to rank in the top 10, even top 20 in the annals of human history. An 8th stage of martial arts already created so quickly? Xia Qin Supreme being found it somewhat unbelievable. Completing the 8th stage of martial arts meant that Lin Yuan had thoroughly completed the 8th stage. But how long had Lin Yuan stepped into the 8th stage? Moreover, Xia Qin Supreme being deeply understood the difficulty of establishing the 8th stage chapter. In such a short period, progressing from the early phase of the 8th stage to the peak was very hard to achieve, let alone creating the 8th stage chapter from scratch. Xia Qin Supreme being, overlooking the cosmic starry sky, had seen countless geniuses. When he first met Lin Yuan, he recognized that his talent was among the top 10 or 20 in the history of human civilization, yet he felt little emotional fluctuation. Being among the top 10 or 20 in human history was indeed monstrous, but it was just monstrous, and if one didn't become a supreme being, one would eventually fade from history. However, now, with Lin Yuan pioneering the 8th stage chapter, Xiaqin's supreme being was genuinely astounded. This was too fast. The three goddesses wouldn't deceive him. If the 8th stage chapter created by Lin Yuan didn't meet the standards, it would have been outright rejected. Since they informed them, the supreme beings, to confirm it, it was the three goddesses believing the 8th stage chapter had no issues. Let me take a look. Xiaqin's supreme being immediately reviewed the content of the 8th stage martial Tao. At the level of supreme beings, reviewing the 8th stage chapter was not difficult at all. Soon, the three supreme beings had finished reviewing the 8th stage martial Tao. This 8th stage chapter, Xiaqin's supreme being fell into thought. Even with his level, he could perceive the potential of the 8th stage martial Tao. It encompassed all paths of power, practically including all forms of strength, and Xiaqin could even sense that the 8th stage chapter of the martial arts evolution system could extend into various cosmic forces. Has the identity of this evolutionary path's founder been confirmed? Is he not an alien pawn? Ancient Power Supreme Being, having finished reading, directly asked the Goddess of Wisdom. He saw the potential of the martial arts evolution system and had to ensure that its creator was of the human race. Otherwise, it would prompt human civilization to resort to relentless assassination. He is of the human race. Xiaqin's Supreme Being has also personally confirmed it. The Goddess of Wisdom answered. Chapter 494 Sala. Our chance is here. Please subscribe. At the moment when the three goddesses completed their assessment of the 8th stage martial Tao part, the real-time rankings of the martial path evolutionary path would be updated. Of course, only Lin Yuan had access to these updates. As for outsiders, they would have to wait until the evolution rankings across all boards were simultaneously updated at dawn each day to see them. Martial path evolutionary path. Qikuan Star Domain Ranking. First, Lin Yuan glanced at the Qikuan evolution rankings, not at all surprised. When the martial path evolutionary path was still at the 7th rank, it had managed to dominate over the two major 8th rank evolution paths, ranking second on the Qikuan evolution rankings. Now that he had uploaded the 8th layer part, the evaluation had greatly improved, leaping to first place on the Qikuan evolution rankings, completely expected. First place on the Anan evolution rankings too. Lin Yuan skimmed through the higher-level rankings. The Anan evolution rankings, belonging to the Anan Star Alliance, listed the strongest top 100 evolution paths born within a star alliance. The Qikuan Star Domain was under the Anan Star Alliance. The number of star domains encompassed by a single star alliance was generally in the hundreds to thousands. Lin Yuan remembered that when the martial path evolutionary path was at the 7th rank, it ranked exactly 100th on the Anan evolution rankings. The top 100 strongest evolution paths recorded by the Anan Star Alliance included 5 9th stage evolution paths. Even so, the martial path evolutionary path still managed to assert itself as the leader of its rankings, illustrating the emphasis the three goddesses placed on it. This exposure will definitely cause a surge in the number of evolvers following the martial path evolutionary path. Lin Yuan felt pleased. The evolution rankings of the great star domains and star alliances, apart from being a recognition for the listed evolution paths, serve as a significant avenue for exposure. In any publicly accessible virtual world, the Central Plaza area is invariably located at the most central position. And the evolution rankings will be displayed at the very heart of the Central Plaza area. Any evolver entering the virtual world for the first time is almost forcibly made to view the evolution paths on the evolution rankings. Let's take a look at the Southern Star Region evolution rankings. Not in the top 100. Lin Yuan continued to look further up, slightly shaking his head. The Southern Star Region is one of the 5 major star regions of human civilization. Besides the Southern Star Region, there are also the Eastern Star Region, the Western Star Region, the Northern Star Region, and the Central Star Region. It should be noted that a research planet is far more valuable than a common life planet, and even some main stars of star systems cannot compare. Just this research planet itself is beyond measure, not quantifiable by hundreds of thousands of cubic universe crystals. Some ninth-rank evolvers do not even have the authority to own a research planet. It's not a matter of cosmic crystals here, but of authority. In the central star domain, becoming the owner of a planet is more than an issue of wealth. And there's the ability to access numerous secret materials collected by human civilization, as well as joining the Science Institute Evolution Institute. Lin Yuan gained a general understanding of what it meant to be an evolutionary scholar. To sum it up, that would be treasure. The treasure of the human alliance. For the whole of human civilization, even losing an entire star domain of ordinary citizens could not compare to the loss of a single evolutionary scholar. Chapter 495 Sala. Our chance is here. Please subscribe _2 Respected Scholar Lin Yuan. With your current status, you could apply to actively leave the Milky Way star region and proceed to the safer inner territories of human civilization. The goddess of wisdom actively suggested. Leave now. Lin Yuan thought it over. Now he had made many investments in the Milky Way star region, including the transformation of a grade B planet worth 100,000 cosmic crystals and so on. Forget it. Lin Yuan declined. The suggestion from the goddess of wisdom for him to go to the inner territories of human civilization was merely out of concern for his safety. But safety concerns? If it were before the 8th wormhole shuttle, Lin Yuan would indeed have had such worries. But now, Lin Yuan, who had comprehended dozens of cosmic forces, could crush those unbeatable at the 8th layer, even if his inner world had not yet recovered to its peak. Even without regaining all his strength, he could handle a few moves against ninth-rank strong individuals. There were simply no safety concerns. The ones who should worry are the different species. Respected Scholar Lin Yuan, you can still preside over the Milky Way star region before your scholar status is exposed. If it is revealed, please proceed to the inner territories of human civilization. The goddess of wisdom fell silent for a while, then gave a reply. The talent and aptitude that Lin Yuan was exhibiting now could be considered a top monstrous genius among human civilization, likely not to provoke an overt reaction from different species to attack him openly. But if the evolutionary scholar status is exposed, it's highly possible that the different species might actively break the unspoken agreement. A top monstrous genius of human civilization might not attract the attention of the peak clans, and a single evolutionary scholar might also find it difficult to provoke an all-out response from these clans. But when combined, understood? Lin Yuan nodded. Chikuan Star Realm Virtual World. Central Plaza area. Many evolvers were whispering amongst themselves. It's been almost 20 years, hasn't the Martial Path evolutionary path released the 8th layer part yet? An evolver raised the question, noting that the Martial Path evolutionary path still occupied the 2nd rank in the Chikuan evolution rankings without any sign of slipping. 8th layer part? Is the 8th layer part so easy to come by? A green-eyed evolver scoffed, implying that even for the high and mighty evolutionary scholars, carving out a complete 8th layer evolutionary path was not an easy task. Otherwise, why would there be so few 8th layer evolutionary paths in human civilization? Moreover, the 8th layer part of the Martial Path evolutionary path is far from being as simple as a normal 8th layer part. The Tai micro clear crystals have arrived? Lin Yuan looked up towards the fleet stopped outside the main star. One by one it's too slow. I'll just go get them myself, said Lin Yuan, vanishing from his spot and appearing outside the Milky Way main star. Galaxy Master, acknowledged Captain Nolan, who naturally knew who had purchased this batch of Tai micro clear crystals. Upon seeing Lin Yuan, he immediately greeted him with respect, just as Lin Yuan's figure appeared outside the Milky Way main star. 5 invincible figures from the 8th rank, hidden deep within multiple spatial layers, suddenly had their eyes light up. They had been lying in wait for more than 10 years, just for this moment, waiting for the Galaxy Master to leave the main star, waiting for the Galaxy Master to lose the protection of the primary star. Without the main star's planetary defense system, the Galaxy Master, a newly advanced evolver of the 8th stage, appeared in their eyes like an undefended little white rabbit. "Our chance has come," they said. "Strike now!" cried out Saruth of the Dark Scale race, being the first to break away from the spatial layers. The other 4 invincible 8th rankers followed suit, excitedly rushing towards Lin Yuan. Chapter 96. Breaking the Myth. Subscribe please. The moment 5 invincible aliens from the 8th rank emerged from the depths of the spatial layers, the space around them began to solidify, centering on them, like a flowing river suddenly freezing over, and the creatures within were trapped as if in amber. The first step to capturing Lin Yuan was to prevent him from escaping. In this regard, blocking the space around was most suitable, as once the void was sealed, all means of teleportation became unusable. Given the capabilities of the 5 8th rank aliens and their grasp of the space rules, Lin Yuan's chances of breaking through their spatial blockade were limited to 2 possibilities. One was mastering the complete space rules to leave with absolute control over them. The other was to possess a force far surpassing their combined strength, proving that brute force could indeed break through cunning, and that even space itself could be shattered by absolute power. Done. Dark Scale Race Saruth breathed a sigh of relief. Before they took action, Lin Yuan's only chance for survival was escaping before the space was sealed. As a disciple of the Chikuan Star Lord with a deep understanding of the space rules, it was possible he bestowed some instant movement method to send Lin Yuan away beforehand. But now, with the spatial blockade complete and Lin Yuan still present, Dark Scale Race Saruth felt it was perfectly handled. Under the joint blockade of the 5 8th rank invincibles, even the Chikuan Star Lord himself would be suppressed if he didn't escape in time. Quicksand. Dark Scale Race Saruth's gaze was icy. Misty yellow sand grains gathered, sweeping in from all directions, piling up rapidly, and its intensity soared. The power of quicksand, a cosmic force that Dark Scale Race Saruth commanded, was not a type meant for attack or defense. Instead, it was akin to a domain power, possessing endless suppressive and controlling abilities. This time, with him leading the 5 8th rank invincibles, it was because of this particular cosmic force. The insect race planned to kill the Galaxy Master with the memory poison, but first they needed to suppress and control him. The cosmic force that Dark Scale Race Saruth mastered was perfectly suited for this, using the power of quicksand to dominate the battlefield, while the other 4 8th rank invincibles immobilized the Galaxy Master's ability to fight back. Of course, the fighting ability referred to here was what the Galaxy Master had shown so far. The moment the power of quicksand swept through, the other 4 8th rank invincibles also struck simultaneously. The cosmic forces handled by the 8th rank invincibles trembled, yet they kept some strength in reserve. Their goal was to control the Galaxy Master, not to directly kill. Outside the Milky Way main star, Captain Nolan was about to greet Lin Yuan. Not to mention, the Galaxy Master had just purchased 80,000 cubic meters of cubic universe crystals in one go, instantly becoming the most prestigious guest. Suddenly, space solidified. Captain Nolan's expression drastically changed. Before he could react, a heavy force of quicksand enveloped him. Captain Nolan was also an 8th rank evolver, nearing the peak of the rank, but at this moment, he couldn't even move, only able to sense that 4 unparalleled presences had descended. It's 4 8th rank invincibles, no, 5 8th rank invincibles. Captain Nolan's scalp tingled, as usually even seeing 1 8th rank invincible was rare. Now there were 5 directly in front of him, and the killing intent exhibited by these 5 8th rank invincibles was unmistakable. Even if it wasn't directed at him, Captain Nolan felt his soul tremble in fear. Galaxy Master. Captain Nolan looked towards Lin Yuan, realizing that these 5 8th rank invincibles were targeting the Galaxy Master. Aside from him, who else would be worth the joint efforts of 5 8th rank invincibles? So there were 5 bugs hidden outside? Lin Yuan glanced at Dark Scale Race Saruth and the other 8th rank invincibles. Before Lin Yuan left the Milky Way main star, these 5 8th rank invincibles were hiding in the depths of the spatial layers, incredibly concealed and difficult to detect unless examined intentionally. After all, Lin Yuan was now at the 8th rank, which placed him in the same realm as the 8th rank invincibles. Buzz. The next moment centered on Lin Yuan. A surging power of yin and yang spread in all directions. Wherever the power of yin and yang spread, the solidified space returned to normal, and the 5 forms of cosmic forces, including the power of quicksand within, were completely shattered, even causing the 4 surging 8th rank invincibles to begin retreating as they looked toward Lin Yuan with eyes full of fear. This power! Dark Scale Race Saruth's face grew somber. Cosmic force. It's definitely cosmic force? Galaxy Master? Have you deciphered a cosmic force? Dark Scale Race Saruth was incredulous. Just over 20 years ago, Lin Yuan was newly advanced to the 8th rank, and now he had deciphered some form of cosmic force, becoming an 8th rank invincible Lin? What kind of freak was this? Although he had stepped into the 8th rank not long ago, the Galaxy Master cleansing the Milky Way star region had shown peak 8th rank combat power, but the peak of the 8th rank and 8th rank invincible weren't the same concept at all. And Dark Scale Race Saruth could feel that the cosmic force mastered by the Galaxy Master was by no means simple, belonging to a higher order of cosmic forces, even stronger than the normal advanced cosmic forces. Otherwise, he definitely wouldn't have been able to shatter their joint effort so effortlessly.